Hello, everybody. Welcome to Election Night. My name is Nachi Gordon. I'll be your host this evening. This is one of the most hyped up elections of our lifetime, and for good reason. Got Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, so many different ideas all coming down to tonight, down to this election, the path to 270. Can't wait to show you all of our guests we have for you tonight. Please keep in mind, this is all live. We are doing this right now. Big thank you to my staff in this tiny room with me, Shammai, Pesach, and Nissen. We hope to make this election night one that is extremely memorable for you and your family. Thanks for tuning in. The first thing I want to show you guys is earlier today, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman in the Five Towns addressed the shul, and this is what he said.
We are at a very interesting time for the Jewish people throughout the world. The only thing I can encourage you to do here in the United States is to make sure that you voted and that everybody in your family and all of your friends voted. Now, I can't tell you how to vote in the shul, but you know what to do. If you don't, ask Hashem. He'll give you the answer. Thank you very much. Toda rabah.
That was Bruce Blakeman, Nassau County Executive, who we hope to hear from pretty soon on here. Let's take a look at the electoral map right now. We know that it's too early to call most of those swing states that we're looking at tonight, Pennsylvania, Arizona. There are votes coming in, but so far it's too close to call. We are going to be on here with a guest pretty soon, Sydney Altfield, followed by Jeff Ballabon, where we are going to discuss what the turnout has looked like in some areas in New York and what the media is saying tonight about this election. But first, a word from our sponsor, PZ Deals.
Meet David. This is David's phone. David finds out about crazy deals from forwards to his family chat and is always a minute too late. Don't be a minute behind. Sign up to be the first to the craziest airline deals, credit card offers, and online deals. Join PZ Deals today. Download the PZ Deals app and never pay full price again.
That was PZ Deals. We thank them so much for sponsoring this show. Download the PZ Deals app right now. You may never pay full price again. That is a fact. Make sure to get the PZ Deals ad on your phone. Head to the App Store, the Google Play Store. Download the PZ Deals app and get it on your phone right now. We are now going to be joined by Sydney Altfield, who is in Long Island. Sydney, you hear me? Hello, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Hear me?
Yes. So happy to see you. By way of introduction, please introduce yourself to our viewers who are watching right now across the world.
Incredible. Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Altfield. I am the Executive Director of Teach NYS, which is part of Teach Coalition. And I've been running our Long Island Unites operation here in Long Island.
Amazing. I'm loving the hat. Don't fetch, vote. That is something that Maury Litwack, the big boss, he has said on Meaningful People. He has said all throughout this election. Now, let me ask you, it looks like at a polling site or you're at a headquarters right now. What was the turnout like today for voting?
Today has been incredible. I'm actually at our Long Island Unites Voter Center. It's a little quiet because we kind of moved all of our phone bankings that are still going on to different shuls in the area. And we're crunching all of the numbers that you're asking for right now. So this was our voter center here in the Five Towns in Cedarhurst. The turnout has been amazing. Like I said, though, we're still crunching the numbers of what's going on today. But something I can tell you is Long Island Unites, we targeted Jewish voters in the New York District, Congressional District 4, which is nationally watched congressional district of which way it's going to go, and one of these races that might decide Congress. So we looked at the Jewish community in this area. Our target early numbers were at 47% early voted, when the entire district only voted at 30% early. So we're already outpacing, the Jewish community is already outpacing the entire district. So no matter who wins, I can already tell you the Jewish community in Long Island is the clear winner here.
That's great. That's something that's very positive to hear. I was hearing earlier today that there was some concern that the 5 towns specifically, the vote was low. Did you hear anything about that?
Sure. There were definitely some times during the day we had people at the polls, watching every which way, that there were some, there weren't long lines. But let me tell you, they have never seen early voter turnout like they did this year. There were days, almost every single day of early voting had hour-long lines. We have pictures from all of the craziness that was going on, the good craziness of the early voting. So I'm not worried. There were some lags, but that's the way that it is on election day. And I think we're seeing record-breaking turnout in early voting and vote by mail, that you're still going to see record-breaking numbers in Long Island and across the country.
Let's speak about, I guess, some of the local races that are happening in Long Island and 5 towns that, sometimes we lose sight. Election day is so big. We're all looking at the Electoral College, 270, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, but we forget that there are so many local races that immediately have impacts on many of our lives. What, I guess, have you seen how people relate to those smaller races? And what have you done at Teach to sort of make that more attractive to people?
Definitely. Our biggest thing, one of our mottos is election, your voice is your vote, and elected officials can see if you vote or not. And politicians take note of if you vote. So we have been really, really honing in on making sure that our community understands that, yes, it's not just about the president. It's not just about the national congressional races, which are very important, but it's about your local state assembly and Senate. Those are the people who decide how much funding goes to Jewish day schools, to non-public schools. That's the people who decide your pickup of garbage. That's the people that decide the potholes and the crossing lights in front of your school. Those are the people that you need to also be paying attention to, because they pay attention to you. Some really fun stories that I like to tell people is, I meet with politicians, state politicians all the time, and I bring community members to meet with them too. And they'll tell me, they'll say, who are you bringing to meet with me? And I'll give them a list, and they'll pass on the meeting because they'll check the voter rolls and they'll see that person didn't vote. So they won't listen to what they have to say. So it's so, so important.
Wow, that's really interesting. As we're talking, I just saw not really like a source that many people hold, but Polymarket, one of the places that people are betting on who's going to be elected, has right now Kamala Harris 59% chance of winning Michigan, which is an important state. It's a swing state. I don't think that I'm going to get sort of an endorsement one way or another for this election out of you. I'm not going to try, but if you had a hunch of which way this is going, what would you say by the end of tonight, or maybe even tomorrow, who's the president of the United States?
I truly, just like you said, you're not going to get anything out of me.
I'm not asking for an endorsement.
I do think it's still going to be a very close race, no matter who wins. I don't think we're going to find out tonight. I think we're going to have a few days. But again, I'm still stand by who my winner is for this election, and it's the Jewish community. That's for sure.
Sydney Altfield, thank you so much for joining us. Send regards to Maury. I hope to see him later on tonight. But we are going to head to our next guest, who is standing by for us. But Sydney, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. And if you haven't voted and you're watching this, please, and check how much longer you have. Especially in New York, you have 45 minutes. And if you're in line, don't leave the line. You can still vote. Really,
that's very important. Do not leave the vote. Make sure to vote. I'm going to ask you one more thing before I let you go. Some stuff we see online about voting machines not working, people having trouble at the polls. What should someone do if they're in a situation where they are encountering issues voting?
They should immediately call they should immediately tell somebody at the polls. New York has a voter hotline that you can call. I don't have the number on me, but if you reach out to me, let me know. I can get you the voter hotline, or you can Google it. But every single state has a voter hotline that's open the entire time of election day, and you can call. You can get a real person on the phone, and they can walk you through everything. The state of New York is really, really incredible in making sure that nothing is going wrong. There were some issues that happened today in certain areas in Queens, but they were on top of it. They fixed everything. So just really know that your vote is safe. They're working everything around the clock. And if it's because that so many people are turning out, that's a good thing. That means that, we're exercising our rights. So it's amazing.
Thank you so much, Sydney. Wishing you all the best, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
I am now joined by my next guest. His name is Jeff Ballabon, someone who's been involved in media for quite a long time, and now the CEO of B2 Strategic. Jeff, are you here with me?
Hang on a second.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
Listen, this is live TV. You know about live TV. You know how it is.
Buddy, I've been in the waiting room.
Oh, hi.
I don't understand. I've been wondering also.
Oh, here you go. Jeff
Yeah.
Ballabon, it's so nice to meet you. So nice to have you on here. I saw, you're someone who's been on Fox News, CNN News. I saw you write on Twitter today that some of your family members are more excited about you being on this show than those shows.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear the truth. So let's
Sure.
get right down to business.
No, I will actually explain to you why that's the truth.
Please.
Because in addition to the political work I do, I have been not only on those shows, I was the head of communications for CBS News globally. I mean, I understand the way the media works, and I don't watch it. I don't think that I think that people who watch media tend to be misinformed and disinformed, and so but if you watch Meaningful Minute and you're listening to things that matter, then that's a useful point in time. I think that news is an addiction for people. I'm not sure why people spend so much time on it. They're just fascinated by it.
And that's coming from someone who is a big exec at a news station.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's used to manipulate people. That's what it's used to make money and manipulate people. That's all.
So do you think in this current race that we're looking at and we're all, waiting with bated breath as news comes out about which states are going where?
Just lost you. I don't know what's going on with the connection.
Oh, you hear me now?
Now I hear you, yeah.
Okay. Do you think did you pinpoint any manipulation done by the news stations in this election in the last few weeks?
I mean, I'm not sure why it's not a question of the last few weeks. It is an ongoing drumbeat. There's a narrative that they want to tell you, and that's what they're going to tell you. And facts are honestly utterly irrelevant. I'll tell you what I learned when I first got into media professionally. My first job in media was after I worked on Capitol Hill, worked as a lawyer for one of the Senate committees, and then I was recruited to work for a cable station. And the head of the cable, which was then a very hot ticket, and they taught me when you speak, if you're doing media, think of everything you're saying as a rolling 4 words in front of you, because any 4 words are a soundbite, and it doesn't matter what you mean. It doesn't matter how clearly you mean it. As long as they could take those words and use it to back their point, they will do it, and that's completely kosher.
Wow, very interesting. I want to really speak to you about this race, what you are thinking we're going to be sort of seeing by the end of tonight. Which way do you think this goes?
Okay, so I know too much to even begin to believe that anybody has any real answers right now. Even polling, polling like anything else, people are obsessed by polls, but polls are driven by the people who pay for them. And so polls are created in order to give an impression, and therefore they're essentially useless. And I don't know why people forget this every 4 years.
I heard Donald Trump say that when he was interviewed by Joe Rogan, that polling, and he said they're guilty of the same thing, but polling is, he said on Rogan, he said, I feel like if I go to a pollster and I say, hey, listen, this is what we want to see, here's $500,000, get that poll. Is that how just a couple days ago we were able to see, Iowa going in Harris's direction, but there's other polls that have plus 12 for Trump?
There's a lot of speculation about why Iowa is such an outlier. It's usually a pretty reliable poll, but there are arguments of why it's an outlier. But that is exactly how polling works. In other words, people are being paid. Everything's about incentives. In politics, it's true in business also, but in politics, in media, polling, everything's by incentives. The incentive is to get paid. And therefore, when someone hires pollsters, and I've hired many pollsters and I've run many polls, you do it saying, this is the result I want, unless you're saying, give me a poll because I really need to know. And then you have to worry about whether the questions are asked correctly or incorrectly. Jewish polling is a very interesting thing, which is most Jewish polls, they try to adjust, because we're such a small population, they try to adjust for what they know to be our population. Well, here's the thing. What do they use? One of the most frequent sources of identifying the Jewish population are the federations or the American Jewish Congress's membership rolls. But we understand that the Frum community is very underrepresented there. And so they keep on skewing down. So all the numbers about how Jews vote, completely inaccurate. We are actually voting much more Republican for at least the last 4 election cycles than is being shown.
What happened? Like, what's going to happen to change something like that, or does it have to change? We don't really care if it's misrepresented, do we?
Correct. Well, there are 2 things. I think we need to explain to the world, because win or lose, Jews are going to get blamed by somebody for the outcome. That's, I can't make predictions about who's going to win or who's going to lose. I can make a prediction of who's going to get blamed for it. So win or lose, someone's going to blame us. All right. That's fine. But we need to be smarter about it. I saw actually you had something, you did a poll because I was logged on to sort of about whether influencers and leaders should opine about elections and votes. And the answer is, well, if they know something about it, but what makes us think they know anything about it?
Well, what do you consider knowing something?
That's a great question. So, and I don't know if this is the direction you want to go, but what would make us think that a Jewish leader, and define what a Jewish leader is, has any sense of how, for example, Washington works or Albany works? So those leaders by themselves, and again, this isn't a question of being bad or ill-intentioned. Everybody reacts to their own incentives. This is fundamental. This is actually the Araisa, right? In other words, money will impact anybody, no matter how holy they are. It impacts whole communities, right? If we take money for our communities, even if we try to resist it, we will change our behaviors because we know that money's coming in from the government. And that's one of the reasons that Democrats like giving money to all communities. It's not to help those communities. It's because you become dependent. Dependency is a terrific thing if you're in politics. So do people understand how Washington works? It's not my experience that most people in most Jewish organizations, honestly, who is making decisions? The boards, and the boards are very well-intentioned people who want to serve the Jewish community, but they could be doctors, lawyers, rabbis, accountants, businessmen. Washington is its own thing, and very few people actually understand Washington.
I understand that. I as someone who's been in media for such a long time, the news stations tonight are under a lot of pressure to try to get it right, to be accurate, and ultimately to call states, to figure out who's winning and to get a projected winner.
Well, they're actually under more pressure to drive their own needs. So I'll give you a perfect example. I've been in conversations, and I'm going to try to be a little vague about this and not identify with whom.
And I'm going to try to get you to identify it, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Go ahead. I've been in meetings when people recognize that I also have a political background and that I'm also religious, where I've had very well-known senior television executives say, okay, but as long as you don't make my news more conservative. It's like, well, what if I told you that making your news more conservative would give you higher ratings? The answer is, well, then I'd rather shut down my news. So there are some places where the news actually is not a moneymaker. They can make more money by adding another half an hour comedy than the evening news. There's another reason they're doing it, and that's much more complicated set of incentives for them to do it. So it's not so simple that they want to be right, especially now when it's become commonplace. It was not Donald Trump who started the idea that the elections are rigged or that it was an unfair election, right? When he won, Hillary Clinton was saying it was an unfair election. This is not the first time it happened, but the media pounced on it, and so they don't actually have to get it right if they can be critical and find people to blame.
Okay, and from Jeff Ballabon, who's the president-elect tomorrow? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris?
Absolutely no idea. Literally no idea. I could not tell you right now.
You had me for a second there.
Well,
absolutely, you had me.
No, I could not tell you. It could be a huge blowout either way. There are certainly signs. So everyone lives in bubbles. I live in multiple bubbles, and most of my bubbles are very conservative, and they are seeing all kinds of good signs, but they're a little bit afraid. Democrats are seeing all kinds of good signs. They're a little bit afraid. The action that I did. So what happened was a few weeks ago, I was asked by several people what I would do if I wanted to try and make a difference. And what I saw was that just look at one state in the last election, Wisconsin, which is a very important state, 10 electoral votes, and it's a swing state right now. And that the margin of victory there or loss there, 20,000 votes. Meanwhile, more than 2 million evangelical Christian voters didn't go to vote in that state. You move that metric by 1 point, 2 points, and you've completely dominated that state. Now, why are they not voting? So there's something called an LPV, a low propensity voter, and there's LPVs in every community. There's LPVs in the evangelical community. In this election, we have a much bigger problem, which is to say, and this is actually, I don't think the Jewish community is focused on this. This is a very important issue because the campaign cannot reach them and the RNC cannot reach them. So you have to do this on the side through C4s and other outreach activity. The problem is that besides the low propensity voters, you now have, and the people who are not that comfortable with Donald Trump's persona because they're devout Christians, is the abortion issue, is the life issue, where once Roe versus Wade was overturned, thanks to Donald Trump having the ability to nominate judges, and thanks to those judges being rock solid on the issue, all of a sudden, abortion is a political issue. That issue, the Republicans have always known was going to be a bad one for them. And so they tacked hard left on, well, moderate on that issue. What do I mean by that? I mean, there were delegates who were important people at the Republican convention who were supposed to be involved in the platform, which I'm always very involved with. They were told they had to leave. There were people taking their names if they objected because this time the platform wanted to be as parv as possible, as neutral as possible. You saw all the noise about Project 2025, which is something that goes on for 4 years, because they don't want to be perceived as conservative. Well, that's okay if you want to tap to the middle, because you're assuming, well, where are the right wingers going to go? And the answer is, well, they won't vote for Harris, but they'll write in people or they'll stay at home. So the total margin in the 9 swing states in the last election was about 600,000 votes. If we can move that many evangelical voters, we know they're going to vote Republican. So I was working with a team that they had over 17,000 pastors, and they couldn't talk about the life issue. Oh, they did talk about that also, but they were also talking about the Israel issue. And that's very important to understand. That issue is a colossally important issue for evangelicals in this country. It is a primary voting issue. And so we have people with thousands of pastors who are, by the way, now doing poll watching because they're trusted in order to move that number.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Jeff Ballabon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I guess we'll see which way this goes. You know, we're in the dark right now.
Wait. You're a media guy. You're a host. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, do I want to say what I think? Who's going to win? No.
See, media incentives. Who's going to win?
Well, we're going to go straight to an ad after this. So I don't know. I really, there's certain things that are on the ballot in this election that I hold near and dear to my heart, that I value. And but who do I think is going to win? I'm scared, honestly. It can go either way. What do I know? I just hope we get an answer. I just hope we get an answer tonight. I know it's unlikely. I know whoever is on the losing end is going to demand, because it's probably so close in states like Pennsylvania and maybe Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia. You know, each one of these candidates.
So there are some early very good indicators in Georgia, which is the black male vote is coming in a huge number for Trump compared to ever before. And there are other numbers like that. That actually bodes well. I will say one more thing before we cut off. The other thing, just because we're talking to, I'm assuming a largely Jewish and from audience.
Yes.
That in the last election, people didn't really pay attention to this, but a few weeks before the election in 2022, not the presidential, the New York Times and local Democrats really went after Haredi education in upstate New York. And the result of that was a huge outpouring of people who normally would have voted the other way, flipped 3 or 4 House seats from deep blue to red. The entire margin that controlled the House for the Republicans was 4, now 3 seats. The reason that's important is if the Republicans didn't have control of the House, none of the hearings about anti-Semitism, none of the people pushing back against limiting aid to Israel, none of that would have happened. So I want to say that the Frum vote actually was the most important vote in 2022. I don't know what's going to happen now. Again, I'm a little bit unhappy about what I'm hearing early on, but recognize that our vote already demonstrated that it can actually change the nation.
Wow, that's something that we have to hold near and dear to our heart. Before I let you go, I just got in front of the NBC exit polls, which don't really mean all that much. I was told Pennsylvania independent voters are 50% Trump and 44% Harris. So something to note as we go on. Jeff Ballabon, thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope to talk to you soon. And now a word from our sponsors. Yes, we'll be back to the live election results in just a second. But, you know, credit report is something that every single person who's watching this has. And maybe you're about to buy a house. Maybe you're trying to open up a new credit card. And you might have more trouble than you think. Because if your credit isn't great, it's not going to be so simple. That's where Bridge Credit Solutions comes in. You know, me personally, before I bought a house, I checked out my credit, and it was pretty good, but there was a few points off, and that would affect the interest rate. So I called up my friends at Bridge Credit Solutions, and I asked them, hey, can you check this out? And they saw I had like a credit card to a store that I opened up once because I got 10% off, something silly, and I completely didn't know about it, and I forgot about it. They removed that. My credit score went up, my interest rate went down, and I'm saving hundreds of dollars a year over a 30-year mortgage. That's the power of fixing your credit, and that is something that Bridge Credit Solutions could do for you. Something amazing that they've been doing recently that has not been so simple in the past, and not many other companies can do this, is removing auto loans and mortgage loans off of your credit report. So maybe you're giving back a car and a payment was missed, and that can affect your credit. No more. Call Bridge Credit Solutions and get it completely removed from your credit report going forward. BridgeCreditSolutions.com. It is BridgeCreditSolutions.com. There's a link below. Message them on WhatsApp today. You won't regret it. We all have our sources, and before I get to our next guest, which we are going to have a great time with, some news coming in that Georgia, with 50% of the vote in right now, the state appears to be leaning in the direction of Donald Trump. There's still a lot of the vote to be counted, including some large blue districts, but Trump is likely happy with his position right now in Georgia. We will give you some more election news, but right now we are joined by comedian, by musician, by activist, by Askin. What else can I say about you, Ami? Ami Kozak.
Great to be here, Nachi. I couldn't resist.
No?
I called Georgia and they got me the votes. I called Georgia. They got me the votes so strong. You're very far away. Look at you. You're like a little speck. Tiny little speck.
To the people watching, I'm very close, but to you, I'm very far away.
Oh, I see.
But how long did it take you to like get down that Trump impersonation? I'm sure you're really hoping he wins because you got that so perfect right now. You want to go another 4 years with that.
I win either way, Nachi. I don't know if you've seen my other videos.
Oh yeah, like you could go Kamala. Can we see a little bit of that?
Well, the thing is that the meaning of a meaningful minute is that it's a minute that's meaningful, which is a unit of time. And it's shorter than an hour, but it's longer than a second. And the more minutes that we stack up together and infuse with meaning of everyday Americans that are working for the aspirations every day, we will have meaningful minutes these next 4 years. And that's why we're going to do it again in 2024. So I win either way, but you know.
That's great. That's great. I'm sure SNL will be calling sometime soon. You know,
Ami, Friday nights.
Yeah, that is the problem. What are your first impressions of election night so far? What's going on?
I mean, most of the day is just wrought with anxiety because you just have to wait, and I just don't trust anything on the experts pollster side of things because I'm not an expert on this either. I'm not researched on the polls and the stats of the data coming out of each state and county. But all I can tell you is this. 4 years ago or 8 years ago, you could not say in polite company that you were going to vote for Donald Trump. For most of the time in his political life, it was unless you were in Trump country, the South or areas where there were Trump signs everywhere.
Like Oklahoma, which, by the way, just went to Trump. That's 7 electoral votes, and not shocking. But yeah, that's Trump country.
I'm just saying most of the time, if you're on the coasts, if you're in polite company, you just couldn't say that. Even if you were voting for him,
right?
It was seen as social suicide or faux pas or really controversial. And if you look at the last month even, what has Trump done? He's made his rounds on the most popular, edgy podcast circuit that we know. Theo Von, Lex Fridman, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, all of these people who are like mainstream, very popular figures. It has now become just standard and very socially acceptable to be supporting Trump, voting for him. You have some celebrities coming out, Hollywood, figures within Hollywood shifting coming out.
from 50 Cent to the guy who plays Shazam. I mean, people are just way out there in a way that they so weren't in 2016 and 2020, which just shows you how much the tide has shifted, I think, in his favor, which leads me to believe that it will be an overwhelming landslide for him.
Okay. So
That's what my gut tells me. It's not based on expertise other than the observation of the cultural tide shifting, and not just the temperament and the culture, but politically, like there were these positions and policies he used to spout that people freaked out about, and now it's like Democrats are trying to out-Trump on certain policies like immigration, whereas 4 or 8 years ago you were like, that's the most racist, xenophobic position I've ever heard. How could he say that? And now they've all moved, you know? And so common sense and reality has moved much more in Trump's favor than his opponents.
It's interesting.
He's also just so unappealing and such an empty shell of a human being, and has doubled down on pandering to some of the worst elements in her own party.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean,
you know?
even if you look at and listen, if she does lose tonight, I think that's something that will be spoken about for months and maybe even years by historians is her choice of her VP. And in most cases, the VP doesn't really affect the race. But she had an opportunity to pick Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, and she's going to win that state. Many think that this comes down to Pennsylvania. What happens there? And she didn't pick him. Many people spoke to the fact that maybe it was because of his Jewish background, his support as a younger person for Israel, God forbid. And she went ahead and picked Tim Walz, who's an AOC guy, who's a Rashid Tlaib guy. Yeah. And here she is.
I mean, the VP pick, in my observation, is always a political calculation more than anything else. He's not a very impressive guy in terms of the way he at least performed on the debate stage and command of the issues. Oh, he's a the part of it is you saw this with Tim Kaine and Hillary Clinton. You don't want the VP, and possibly the case of a female candidate on the head of the ticket, to outshine the president. The presidential candidate on the top of the ticket. I think a lot of it came down to maybe not the Jewish factor, although that's a part of it, but the fact that he is much more well-spoken and much more of a better speaker, and maybe would siphon off too much of the attention and would highlight just how maybe it would have the reverse effect of showing that she's not qualified. He's much more, I mean, as a speaker, he was much, much better. It was weird that when he was called out for a pro-Israel essay he wrote once upon a time, he said, oh my God, that was in college, people. In my younger years when I knew less, that I was supportive of Israel. So this whole instinct in the Democratic Party to shy away from Israel support and to say to the pro-Hamas protesters, look, you have a point. I mean, we support Israel's right to defend itself as far as our lip service, but we also don't want to lose that pro-Hamas vote. I mean, I find that so bizarre. So as far as why she didn't pick him, I think it's a little bit of a leap to say it's because he was Jewish. Kamala's husband is Jewish. But maybe it seems more like maybe there's a political calculation to say, we need that Rust Belt Midwest kind of thing, white working class vote that Trump is attracting. And I don't know. I'm not an expert as far as like the Pennsylvania calculation versus that calculation. I'm sure that was that, and I'm sure it's seen as a liability for Josh Shapiro to be that good publicly as a speaker, because you don't want them outshining. Look at Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton. They're always like this, like beta male kind of like, vote for her. She's going to be really great. Okay, okay, honey, go and do that. I'm just a knucklehead, and she's been always. This is the kind of person she is, So that okay, go ahead and vote for her. You don't want some superstar. You kind of want some guy who's just going to be. Oh, I'm so excited for you. Go out there and get him.
And that's what you saw. SNL kind of did a Tim Kaine skit this Saturday night where they brought Tim Kaine onto stage and they said, for $1 million, can you name this man? And it's really it's going to what you said, downplaying the VP. No one remembers Tim Kaine, who up until election day in 2016, they thought he was going to be the vice president, but that didn't end up happening. Ami, what do you think is happening, or what do you think it sounds like right now at the Daily Wire's backstage stream?
Well, right now, I've been checking in on it. Without like anything conclusively closed, no one can get too excited. Everyone has to check their optimism with I guess what happened in 2020, which is you had a candidate who barely campaigned. No one saw much of Joe Biden that whole time. And I always have seen that in the past, the more charismatic superstar quality candidate wins, because politics is a performance art, especially on the national level. It's not like when you're running for mayor or a
Right.
local office, but when you're running on the national stage, it's, why did Obama beat Romney? I don't think anyone looked at each policy platform and the country decided, I think we like Obama's prescriptions. They like the fact that he could connect with hope and change and the audacity of hope. What does that even mean? It means nothing. But he was able to connect emotionally. And Romney, who seems much more qualified technically on issues, was very stale emotionally. Same thing against Obama McCain. I don't think majority of people look at these platforms in detail and assess policy of what will be good on economic policy. They look at the way the person makes them feel. And John McCain was up there saying, so we're gonna improve our economy. This is what we have to do. And he was stiff.
Yeah.
Clinton beat Bush for the same reason in that moment in Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas, where Clinton, there was like a town hall where Clinton connects with the person directly in the audience, and Bush goes, I'm sorry, are you saying for people who have means they can't understand? It's just like,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a close call. Both candidates possess a certain amount of charisma. So 2020 shocked me because of the charisma that Trump had and the performance ability to be out there publicly versus Biden, who was in a basement. So I think everyone's holding their breath in a certain respect. But I will say, if it does turn out to be a landslide tomorrow, within the next few days or whatever, like, no one will be surprised.
But let me
Even
ask you a question. What
all
happens?
the Kamala supporters, all the Kamala journalists who are going to be like, we knew she was flawed. We knew that we were scrambling. The jig is up. We tried to play it off like she was this superstar, but all of that's pretty obviously completely manufactured, in my opinion. The whole enthusiasm around her campaign and all the negativity they portray the Trump campaign at is very manufactured.
It's all about joy, right? It's all about that joy, the joy campaign.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So.
what do you think Jordan Peterson would say right now?
Well, you don't want to put the cart before the horse, I would say, and the proverbial horse that's also a dragon. And you have to go into the abyss with a bit of humility, a little bit. And if you do that, with a fair bit of temperamental substructure, you need a conservative substructure underlaying a society in order for the classical liberal tradition to thrive. And if you don't have that, man, be bloody hell to pay. So that's what I would say.
Is there anyone else that you have in your back pocket that I don't know about?
That I have in my back pocket that you don't know about?
In terms of your impersonations?
I don't know. Yes, probably.
You probably can't do a Candace yet. It's not super. It's not super
I don't
strong.
have that one down. I don't impersonate. I debate that one. That one's up for. That's a different part of my roster.
Give me what a Donald Trump, acceptance speech would sound like tonight.
Yeah, that's good. Acceptance speech.
Well, tonight we're gonna celebrate so strongly because we knew that we could do this and we did it. And we thank all the garbage people because we wear our vests and we take out the garbage, but we're gonna actually take out the actual garbage. That's what we're gonna drain the swamp, and it's gonna work so beautifully. You're gonna see it, and you know that because we work so hard. And I told you I was coming back so strongly. Meanwhile, the Democrats are eating the dogs and eating the cats and eating their lunch. That's what they're doing. They're really eating their lunch because they said that we couldn't do it. And they called us all these names, terrible names they called us. Everything that they are, they called us. But now we're going to take the country back and we're going to restore America and make it work so strongly, so beautifully. And just so you understand, we're going to take everything that was there 8 years ago when I came in. We're going to put it back and we're going to put it right there. Take my hand, watch my hands. They move so beautifully. And we're going to put it right here. And now we have Elon Musk, and we have RFK Jr., and we have Joe Rogan, and we have Megyn Kelly, who back in the day, we didn't get along so well. I said there was blood coming out of her wherever, but now I guess she's taking care of that, and you know that. She's taking care of that, and we're getting along so well. And we're going to make the country great again. I want to bring it back, and it's going to work beautifully. We're going to make America great once again, once and for all. And you won't have to vote again because I think I'm going to keep doing this.
Kozak, before I let you go, I want to ask you in your rounds as a comedian during this election cycle, has there been a situation where you made a joke maybe at the expense of either candidate, and you were met with people who couldn't take a joke?
I did a set recently on like the Upper West Side for a bunch of baby boomers in their 70s at a JCC. That's not a Trump crowd, you know? So they didn't love BB impressions. They didn't love my Trump impressions. And when I made fun of Kamala, they kind of went, But, you know, not really. I mean, most of the time, nah. You know, you come up against different people, but, you know, most of the crowds have been pretty friendly, thank God. And everyone is sort of on the same page here. Common sense has caught up with certain you know, political sides here, especially post October 7th. I think everyone's been nudged a little bit to the right.
Yeah.
If you were a right winger, you're hardcore as ever. If you were center right, you're right. If you were in this, you know, if you were in the center, you're center right. And if you were center left, you're center. And if you were on the left, there's nothing for you to say at this point. All the progressive allies you made over the years have abandoned you. You don't count as a marginalized group on the progressive left.
Yeah.
Israel doesn't count as a legitimate state and a country worth defending and protecting on the progressive left. And so, you know,
yeah,
I feel that's nudged everybody in a certain direction.
That is true. Ami Kozak, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We are now going to bring in our next guest. First, I want to tell you guys, make sure to download the PZ Deals app right now. The PZ Deals app, the PZ Deals app right now. And now bringing in our next guest, Kassy Akiva. Kassy, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
How's it going? It's my understanding that you are in Pennsylvania right now, correct?
Yes, I am in McCormick headquarters. There is a very loud election night party going on with a very loud band.
Yeah.
So I'm standing outside. So if the audio is bad, sorry guys. But yes, I am here. Things are very tense. Pennsylvania is not looking amazing right now, but it's still too early. The only votes really coming in are Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, for just letting our viewers know, if you can't see Kassy, she is busy on the path right now in Pennsylvania. So we're gonna just hear her voice. Kassy, you just mentioned in passing that Pennsylvania is not looking too good right now. We know that it's an important state for Donald Trump to get to a victory. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so Pennsylvania has really been the main state in contention this election cycle. The thing to know about Pennsylvania is it's going to take a while to count the votes. They just don't have a good system for it. So right now, we're really just seeing the votes from the big cities. So it's way too soon to say what's going to happen here. But the state that we should really be talking about is Virginia.
Okay.
Virginia is overperforming for Donald Trump right now. Northern Virginia is pretty much the main liberal area. There's a few others, but most of the Northern Virginia votes are in, and Trump has turned Virginia red as of a few minutes ago. So we'll see if it stays that way as more votes come in, but Virginia is overperforming for him for sure.
Is that something that was not expected from Virginia?
Not expected for Virginia. You know, he did not do well there in 2020 at all. So it was really expected that he would not win Virginia. In fact, most people weren't even talking about Virginia. So this is a great thing. The local races have done better in Virginia for Republicans, especially with Governor Glenn Youngkin. But this is kind of a big deal. So I mean, I really think the eyes need to stay on Virginia because that state could really help us sway more electoral votes his way.
I just saw something that came in, and of course, you know, you're with the Daily Wire and you do an incredible job as a video journalist, but some news just came in that the New York Times estimates that Trump is going to win the presidential election with 277 electoral college votes. Your reaction in real time to that from the New York Times?
Doesn't surprise me. He's overperforming. So this is great news. I'm just hoping we know tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I think it's really bad for our country to have, you know, the election going on for a whole week. I think it causes a lot of doubt in people's minds. It causes problems, causes more protests. So I think it's good to know tonight. The worry about that is if it is known tonight, there's already different businesses in DC boarding up, ready for riots. So in 2016, I was actually in my I was in my school cafeteria as a college student watching the results come in, and the students started getting crazy and crying and all of that. And then you saw the riots starting in DC. So there could be some fallout tonight if it's known. And I did not think we would know tonight. In fact, I was planning to stay in Pennsylvania for a whole week until all the votes were counted. But it looks like maybe I'll be going home tomorrow or heading to some protests.
That's fun. Maybe go home and get some vacation time also. Why not, right? But I don't think that's going to be happening.
You know, my husband would love that. We're in our first year of marriage. He'd be very happy if I was home. But instead, he's sending me moral support as I'm doing live hits with this band.
Yeah.
And the headquarters is so loud. It's ruining the reports for all the reporters. It's pretty bad.
Is there any other races, any other states that you want to speak about before I let you go? Maybe some local races that are shocking you?
Well, let's talk about Florida.
Okay,
I
the
mean,
Florida is really it's pretty strong from Florida, no?
I think COVID-19 single-handedly flipped Miami red. I also think a lot of Jewish people helped flip Miami red. Obviously, a lot of people moved down there during COVID, but it is shocking how red Florida is, especially because the Democrats were using the tactic of saying, you know, they insulted Puerto Rico during the rally with the comedian. The Puerto Ricans are not going to vote for Trump. Well, it's not true. The biggest county in Florida with a Puerto Rican population is going Trump right now. So a lot of things are happening. I really think we're going to know tonight. It's really amazing.
Okay, so we are hearing optimism from Daily Wire reporter Kassy Dillon when it comes to this election going in favor of Donald Trump. Am I getting that correct?
Yes, and I am not an optimistic person overall.
Okay, well, Kassy, I know you have a busy night ahead of you over there in Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Maybe we'll catch up with you a bit later if this election is in fact called, because that would be great for all of us. So, Kassy, thank you so much, and I hope to speak to you soon, maybe on a podcast, maybe tonight. Who knows, right?
Yeah, maybe both.
Yeah, maybe both. Thank you so much, Kassy. And to all our listeners, thank you for sticking with us. Like I said, before we brought on Kassy, I want to make sure that you head to the App Store right now, download the PZ Deals app. You see the logo on this stream right now, PZ Deals, PZ Deals, PZ Deals. You may never have to pay full price again. When it comes to buying things online, there's always a way to get it cheaper. There's price mistakes that happen, and you could be the first to know. You know, how you got those amazing tickets, how you got that brand new refrigerator, right? PZ Deals is your go-to place, and now there's an app for that. Make sure to download the PZ Deals app. And now a word from our sponsors. We'll be back to the live election results in just a second. I'm here with Rabbi Baruch Barbender from Achiezer. Achiezer, the organization in the 5 towns, but really serves the entire Klal Yisrael. Big dinner coming up, Baruch Bar. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Very quickly, it's a big dinner because it's been 5 years since our last in-person dinner, pre-COVID. Who knew 2 months before? And the board met several times, and we really decided that Achiezer is a community in and of itself, and the only way to really showcase that and bring that out is by making a real dinner in the flesh. You know, whether it's 1,000 people, 2,000 people, it's going to be a real dinner here in the community in the Sands. It's close and it's exciting. People are just like, wow, are you guys really doing this? They forget that we used to do this every single year, and now it's like, really, a real dinner? So a lot of excitement. Baruch Hashem, I'm very grateful.
For those watching who maybe don't know what Achiezer does, if you can give me like a 30-second synopsis of what Achiezer does.
I can. A 30-second synopsis would be hard, but Achiezer is almost like a machine of human beings, amazing people that are selfless 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that whenever somebody in this community or any community experiences a problem, whether it's a hospital-based issue, a medical problem, a mental health issue, a financial issue, any sort of death or crisis, there's a phone number to call, and there's a group of people there that somehow, some way find the solutions for those crises.
Amazing. So how can people get involved with Achiezer?
Recording in progress.
So the beautiful part about Achiezer is that, yes, we need people to donate. Yes, we need people to come to our dinner. We don't fundraise often. Check your mail. You don't see Achiezer too often. But besides, for the obvious of donating, Achiezer boasts hundreds of volunteers overseen by a Daniel Goldletter, and there's just so many options for people to roll their sleeves up, and it could be driving, it could be therapy, it could be, counseling, it could be one of dozens of ways people can actually get involved, whether you're 15 years old or whether you're 45 years old, and it gives people a chance to give back in a very tangible way.
We are back, and my friends, you know we're doing this live, which is so much fun. So I'm right over here looking at some results that are coming in, and this just in from my friend Alex, who's running a great group tonight. Trump is running very well here in Texas. 57% of the vote is in, and a lot of them are yet to be reported from the red counties. It seems like it will be a decisive victory for Donald Trump in Texas, as expected. Some more, as I mentioned with Kassy Dillon, the New York Times has made a estimate that Trump is going to win tonight's election. I bet we were not expecting to see that from the New York Times. Some more news. At 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Minnesota and Arizona, Wisconsin, Iowa. So this is quite a few places, very important places. Iowa, which just a few days ago, we saw a poll that shocked the world that had Kamala Harris up +5 in Iowa. Many saying it's an outlier poll, many saying that that poll did not, really capture what it's like there. Well, we're going to find out probably in the next 3 minutes what's going on in Iowa. It's Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin are closing as well soon. So we're going to get details from there. We have more news coming in, and that is that just to explain a little bit about the makeup of what's going on. Wisconsin right now is a toss-up state, and it could be the key to a Trump victory tonight. So we're going to keep our eyes close on Wisconsin. In the past 2 election cycles, polls had a Democratic candidate up by 7 points in Wisconsin, but the actual margin ended up being less than 1. So here we are. That's within the margin of error. Guys, we might be looking at a red wall in action. So we are going to keep a close eye. Something to note, Dennis Prager is on Daily Wire Live, I believe, and he had quite the response to the New York Times saying that Donald Trump might win this election. I'm sure Donald is extremely happy about this, and some of you watching at home are too. We are going to be joined by, in just a second, Shlomo Soroka out of Chicago, Illinois. Shlomo Soroka, thank you so much for joining us. Are you here with me, Shlomo? Shlomo Soroka, how are you? There we go. I see you. I don't hear you, though. Hi, you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
What?
Can you hear me?
Do I hear you? Oh, yes.
The
Now I
audio.
hear you. Now I hear you. We are connected. Don't you love live TV? This is so much fun. They said it would be fun.
Love it.
They said it would be fun. So let's talk a little bit about your position over there in Chicago. Tell us, for the viewers who are not familiar with who Shlomo Soroka is.
I have the zechus and merit and honor of serving as the Director of Government Affairs for a good representing the interests of the Orthodox community here.
So, there's news that came out of Chicago not too long ago that someone had got shot on Shabbos walking to shul, and immediately we were told that this will not be pursued as a hate crime. Since then, that has changed, and I was told that you maybe had something to do with that. Can you tell me, the process of something like that happening in your state, in your city, and what you do to protect the Jewish people?
Well, obviously, it's a very, very frightening thing. But I don't know if it should come as a huge surprise to people when, we're surrounded by, we live in a world today where there's so much hatred. And certainly after what happened in Shmini Atzeres last year, the hatred is visceral and we're all feeling it. And it was just a matter of time before something like this would happen. And hopefully, thankfully, Baruch Hashem, by the grace of God, it was really a miracle that somebody wasn't killed. But hopefully now this will be a wake-up call for government to take this seriously. We were very concerned that this would kind of be suppressed. Certainly concerns how this should impact the election, not just locally, but even nationally. So there were concerns about, is this going to be kind of treated like just a random shooting, or was this going to be treated as what it really was, which was essentially a terror attack? This was this was a real terrorist attack. And thankfully, it did get ultimately the attention and the focus and the treatment that it deserved. And hopefully that will be the case going forward as well.
In your position, it's very important that you make sure that the people over there in Chicago are going out to vote. And, I just saw a flash in front of the screen in front of me that Kamala Harris has a pretty demanding lead in Illinois, and that's no surprise to anybody. Being in the position that you're in and, having to encourage a lot of people who live in Chicago, who live in the Jewish community there to vote, although the, presidential election might not go the way that they're voting, they could be sort of disenfranchised. They could be a little bit discouraged. How do you deal with that, and how do you explain the importance to these people to vote?
Nahi, that's a great question. I get asked that question all the time, and the truth is, my son is learning in yeshiva right now in Philadelphia, so he's a Pennsylvania voter.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so he feels that he's going to decide who's the next president. But sometimes it could be a little disheartening for somebody who lives in one of these states that really is not up for grabs. It's not a swing state. And that the candidate that you want, or that even the one that you don't want, it's even more disheartening, doesn't really have a shot. What's the motivation to go out to vote? And what I tell people is there's a few things over here. Number one is when it comes to presidential elections, that has an impact on your life. But sometimes even more impactful are the local elections. Who's going to represent you in city council? Who's going to represent you on the state level, your state representative, your assemblyman, your state senator, even on your school board? Those things make the biggest impact on your life sometimes. And we have some very competitive races here in Illinois for school board. So that really motivates people who understand that. And we've, I think, done a pretty good job in educating people in that respect. The other thing is that what we're able to demonstrate to elected officials that we have such high turnout percentages in our community, much, much higher than the general public. And they pay attention to communities that vote. And there isn't, it wasn't like this necessarily 10, 15 years ago, but now there isn't somebody running for a statewide office that doesn't come and visit, doesn't come to our office, visit with community leaders, because they know that we're going to vote as a block. We're going to come out in droves. We're going to really turn out all the way. So the community has seen the difference, the attention that we get from mayors, from governors, from U.S. senators, from members of Congress. They come and they pay attention to us because we vote. And lastly, what I tell people, this is kind of crazy, but there isn't, at some point in time, you will need help from some elected official. And oftentimes they will look up your voting record, because if you don't vote, you don't exist. Why should they help you? And we tell that to people, that this is an unfortunate reality of the way things work, but you can do something about it. If you vote, then they will pay attention to you.
That's really important. That's something that everyone listening should understand going forward. Let me ask you, where are you right now?
So right now, I am at the watch party for school board candidate Bruce Leon. He's a member of the Orthodox community here in Chicago. He actually lives a few houses down from me. And we are waiting for the results to trickle in from different precincts. And hopefully within the next, half hour, we'll have an idea if he was victorious or not. He definitely had an uphill battle. He was not the favorite in this race. He worked really hard, though. And the community did come out, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, Shlomo, thank you so much. We hope we hear good news in the races that are concerning you and the people in your community. Of course, we love the Yidden in Chicago. Was Romanian sold? Did you hear that also?
I'm embarrassed to admit this. I've been living here for 10 years. I've never been to Romanian.
Who let this guy on? He didn't have Romanian? He's living in Chicago 10 years? Shlomo Soroka, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes. To all our listeners, Texas has been called, while we were speaking, Texas has been called for Donald Trump. That is no surprise. We will get to more election results after this message from my friends at Save a Farm.
I lied. I lied when I said I'd be okay until the next Shemitah in Tafshin Peitet. I didn't know it then, but I lied. It's been one thing after another. Pandemic, a Shemitah year.
Recording stopped.
My fields lay empty, overgrown or dying. The government has its hands full right now. Maybe months or even years for farmers to receive grants. With too much debt accumulating,
Recording
my only
in
option
progress.
is to sell. But our farms, more than our enemies, and they can't wait to be the highest bidder. I will never sell this land. I will never let it fall into enemy hands. This isn't only about the war or my livelihood as a farmer. It's about the safety and the security of all Jews everywhere. It's about protecting our homeland of Israel. So with God's help, my children and your children will have a home when they need it. Now and forever.
We are back. Beautiful message from Save a Farm. Thank you so much for being a sponsor today. A big thank you to our friends at PZ Deals. Guys, I know you never want to pay full price again. That's why you need to download the PZ Deals app. I want to give a big shout out to the Jacobs family that are watching right now. Right across the street, Zavi Jacobs. You should be a night sitter, but thank you for watching this election night. I hope I can compete with Ben Shapiro for you. Some interesting news before we get to our next guest. Poly Market, which I explained before, which is a betting market where people are betting on candidates to win, and there's a lot of action over there. Prior to this election beginning, it had Donald Trump at around a 55% chance of winning the election, and that is now up to 71% to Kamala Harris's 29%. So if you at home are rooting for a Donald Trump victory, it's kind of looking like it is heading in that direction. We're not going to jump the gun. A lot of states yet to come, a lot of very important ones, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. We are going to stay tuned to see those, and we're going to keep you posted. But first, I want to go to one of my guests joining me right now, Michael Fragan, who is in the 5 towns. Michael, thank you so much for joining me. Where are you joining from?
Hi, good evening. I am joining from the gym of Lawrence Middle School in Lawrence. We're closing the polls here, and this is real-time how democracy works. We've got 5 machines here, and we are counting the votes.
That's incredible. So tell me a little bit about what is the local race that you really have your eye on. For people who are watching, who are living in the 5 towns, tell us something maybe we don't know that they should hear.
Well, this had been is shaping up to be one of the closest congressional races in the whole country. That's Anthony D'Esposito versus Laura Dillon. And we're at spotlight race. Tens of millions of dollars been spent on this race, and it's promising to be very close. Obviously, this is just one microcosm of the of the race. Lawrence is kind of known as a Republican bastion. Going to be all the way at the end, and we are now, going to get some tallies. We kind of pretend we think how people are going to vote, but we only know at the end when the votes are being counted.
No, that is true. I want to ask you, before you came on, I mentioned that there are some betting markets that have Donald Trump at a 71% chance to take this election, and the way things are going, we spoke to Kassy Akiva from the Daily Wire, and she said that the way things are looking right now, she's pretty optimistic that we will get a Donald Trump victory, and maybe even tonight. What is your response to that?
Oh, I'm not in the prediction business. I'm kind of more in the analysis business. I mean, I think the idea is, you do see a huge shift in the you do see a huge shift. I'm sorry about that. The video.
No problem.
went off. You do see huge shift. Counties are throughout those places where the polls are closed towards Trump. A lot of rural counties and even suburban counties really making up, and even some of the urban counties. You're seeing 5 to 10 point swings towards Trump. So it's going to be interesting as the night goes on how that goes. I mean, I'm not these betting markets. Let's see how much money goes into these predictions. But certainly I'd be very happy if Donald Trump wins. Certainly want a Republican presidency, Republican Senate, Republican House. I think that would be great for the country. So, I'm not going to get into the betting markets.
Right.
What I do care a lot about is how the Orthodox community turns out. Do they participate? Do they, are they out there doing their civic duty and getting and electing people that they think have the best interests of our community as well as the best interests of our brothers and sisters in Israel.
I did hear earlier today that the turnout in 5 towns was a little bit light. I am curious if that turned around at some point today, if it became stronger.
A little bit light. Wow. That's, that's hard to...
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Given the fact that, I can't tell you every single place in the 5 towns, but given the fact that, let's say somewhere, in Lawrence in particular, about 60% of the people voted early, meaning they voted before today. There weren't any lines today because there weren't people, it's the same thing in Lawrence High School, in Cedarhurst, and North Woodmere, but that's because of the early voting, 10 days of early voting, people were voting. So I may have appeared to people as being.
No, so
light,
you're saying the turnout
given,
was fine, meaning percentage of people who voted it was a great showing, is what you're saying.
I will tell you this, anecdotally, because I know there were certain shuls in the neighborhood that were tracking people who voted. We had shuls, like big shuls, like Young Girls Over Cedarhurst, voting close to 90% of their membership voted. Young Girls Over West Hempstead, I think, close to 90% of their membership voted. Many of the shuls reached 70 to 80%. A lot of people were using an app that allowed that cross-referenced the membership together with who voted. And I myself had a tracker with my own contacts. Out of the 500 contacts or 504 contacts that I have that are registered to vote here, 88% voted.
That's
only as of 2:00. It didn't update after that. So hopefully I got a little bit like 95%. It's a little bit embarrassing for me if my own friends aren't voting, right?
Yeah. Listen, we got to make sure they vote. As we're sitting here, it's being told to me that Ohio has been called in the favor of Donald Trump. We've been keeping eyes on there. I think it's
not a surprise.
Not a surprise.
I was remarking to my wife 20 years ago in 2004 when I went to work for George W. Bush in Florida. I had a choice between going to Cleveland and going to Miami. So I decided, of course, to go to Miami, which was great. But if you think about it, that Ohio and Florida were swing states back then, and they are very much in the Republican column these days. They're not even, in the swing state genre anymore.
What's interesting, though, to look about Florida, and this might be indicative for the rest of the race, is that whereas Florida has turned red over the last couple of elections, for sure, Miami, though, the city, was pretty blue. And in this election, Miami has turned red. And that can be the result.
Tremendous inroads.
Yeah, this could be the result.
Tremendous inroads with Latinos not just Cubans, but Venezuelans and other Latinos really shifting towards the GOP in Miami-Dade County. It's a really interesting phenomenon. Obviously, whatever Puerto Rican jokes may have been made, those have no effect on other Latinos in Miami-Dade. But I think was an 11-point swing going towards Trump. It's quite remarkable. And these are bellwether counties. If Democrats can't win in some of these places that they used to win handily, then they're not. It's going to be a difficult future for them.
This is starting to, for me at least, and I was pretty young and I'm still not too old, but this is starting to feel a little bit like 2016. Not as much of a shock and surprise as 2016 was, because nobody expected Donald Trump to take that victory. But things are looking up for him. Things are looking pretty good. Let me ask you, people who are
I'd rather
watching.
be where he is right now than where she is right now. That's
Oh,
for sure.
that's a great thing to say, and it paints the picture perfectly. For someone who's watching who says, you know what, I don't really care one way or another who it is. Why should someone care if Donald Trump is going to be the president or if she would be the president? Why should someone in our community, let's say the Jewish community, really care?
I mean, I could, in one word, Iran. I mean, I think that is the biggest issue. I mean, I think that for some reason, the current White House and Democrats kind of look at, it's Israeli-Palestinian conflict without realizing there's a global war going on with the Iranians. And I think that's something clearly Mike Pompeo and other people in the Trump administration in particular, they realized very easily, and as President Trump did himself, that Iran was a menace to world peace and Iran needed to be stopped.
Yeah.
And we see how appeasing Iran has worked out for the Middle East right now. So hopefully this will be something that this administration, hopefully the Trump administration, will take extremely seriously. We have every indication that they will. And if you're in our community, you definitely realize what the future of Israel is at stake.
Well, Michael Fragan, thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you the best of luck for the rest of this night. And we will speak to you again pretty soon.
Okay.
We are now.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Thank you for doing this for the public. This is really a great service.
My pleasure. Thank you. We are now being joined by a good old friend of mine. Are you with me? Am I with my old boss, Bruce Blakeman, Nassau County executive? We're trying to bring him up to the screen. Still don't see him. But Bruce Blakeman, how are you, man?
Doing good.
Okay, Bruce. So how's it going so far over there? How are you feeling about the results that are coming in?
I'm cautiously optimistic. As you know, in CD4, Anthony D'Esposito's district, that there's 70,000 more registered Democrats. So we always have a lot to overcome. The turnout's pretty good. I think the race is going to come down to how the independent voters vote. If Anthony can get more than 55% of the independent voters, I think he's in good shape. So we just have to see what happens. And basically, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yes. So, Bruce, I want to ask you if, I know you are someone who Donald Trump speaks very nicely about. He's complimented you many times in your looks, so that's something to really take to the bank. Did you have an opportunity to speak to Donald Trump today? And if so, what was said?
Yeah, so I called President Trump at 11 o'clock with Chairman Joe Cairo, and we had a nice conversation with the president. He was feeling reasonably confident, and we just wished him good luck. He asked what was going on here on Long Island. We told him that we're getting out the vote. We're working as hard as we can. And he thanked us for everything that we've done for him. And hopefully he'll have a tremendous victory tonight, because it's very important for America. It's important for Israel. It's important for our county.
Amazing. Well, I know you're not in the game of making predictions, but I know you're watching the presidential election very, very closely. You mentioned before you were cautiously optimistic. I don't know if you were referring to any local races or the presidential race. By the end of tonight, or
I would say both.
Okay.
Both races, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that if President Trump wins Georgia and North Carolina, he's got a good chance of taking either Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Michigan. If he takes one of those, I think he's got it in the bag. So we have to see what happens in North Carolina and Georgia. Certainly, if he wins those two states, he's positioned to win by just getting one other big state. So I think that we have to see what happens in those two states first.
Bruce, is a position in the Trump government something that has crossed your mind?
No, not really. A lot of other people are talking about it, but basically, I love my job, and my feeling is that I'm going to run for re-election. But listen, if the president calls you and asks you to, work for him, then it's a call to duty. So obviously, I would have to think about that very carefully. But my family's here in Nassau County. My new granddaughter's here in Nassau County. So, my guess is that I will be running for re-election, and it's a job that I love, and hopefully people think I've done a good job.
That's awesome. Bruce, you remember when I used to work for you? You were my first job. You know that? My first job. I worked for Bruce Blakeman.
Survived.
I survived. You know what? I was driving you around places. I don't know how you survived. I just got my license. Whose idea was that?
Yeah, well, listen, you did a great job, Naki, and you've graduated from Blakeman Boot Camp. Congressman Lalota was in Blakeman Boot Camp. A number of other elected officials did boot camp with me. So maybe there's a future for you in politics.
Maybe. I think sometimes I'm living in politics already. But Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to hear good news as the night goes on.
We hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys thank you everyone who's still with us over here on the stream. We're going to head to an ad break, but we will be right back. Before we head to the ad break, I want to do a little bit of an ad break for you before we go to the ad break. And that is for my friends at RSK, Rav Shaila Karastir. Because the days of living in debt and being financially stressed don't have to happen. You can grab hold of that. Head to rsk.com/sign up. Sign up for financial coaching. It's okay to admit that you don't have all the answers. You're young. You just got married. Maybe you just start having kids and the bills are stacking up. You've seen what the interest rates are. You've seen what grocery bills are. RSK is there to help you through this. You don't need to do it alone. Matis Gilbert and his team at RSK are godsend, and they are here to make sure that you don't do it alone. There are answers to the questions you have. It just takes a little bit of vulnerability. Go to rsk.com/sign up. Sign up today. Take the first step to gaining back financial independence, financial bliss, and you'll be so happy that you did. That is rsk.com/sign up, and we'll be right back. Yes, we'll be back to the live election results in just a second. But, you know, credit report is something that every single person who's watching this has. And maybe you're about to buy a house. Maybe you're trying to open up a new credit card. And you might have more trouble than you think. Because if your credit isn't great, it's not going to be so simple. That's where Bridge Credit Solutions comes in. You know, me personally, before I bought a house, I checked out my credit, and it was pretty good, but there was a few points off, and that would affect the interest rate. So I called up my friends at Bridge Credit Solutions, and I asked them, hey, can you check this out? And they saw I had like a credit card to a store that I opened up once because I got 10% off, something silly, and I completely didn't know about it, and I forgot about it. They removed that. My credit score went up, my interest rate went down, and I'm saving hundreds of dollars a year over a 30-year mortgage. That's the power of fixing your credit, and that is something that Bridge Credit Solutions could do for you. Something amazing that they've been doing recently that has not been so simple in the past, and not many other companies can do this, is removing auto loans and mortgage loans off of your credit report. So maybe you're giving back a car and a payment was missed, and that can affect your credit. No more. Call Bridge Credit Solutions and get it completely removed from your credit report going forward. BridgeCreditSolutions.com. It is BridgeCreditSolutions.com. There's a link below. Message them on WhatsApp today. You won't regret it.
Hi, my name is Shimi Scott Jacobowitz from Sensible Marketing. Do you have open beds at your skilled nursing facility? In order to have a successful census-growing facility, you have to have good communication and a good oversight for your admissions and liaisons. We take on the full gamut of marketing and admissions. We have relationships with hospitals, we build relationships in the community, and we're here to grow your census and to have your beds filled.
We are back, everybody, and let me tell you, I am so glad to be here. And so many of you are messaging me pictures of you watching. Thank you for joining. Happy to be here. Let's pull up the electoral map right now for all our viewers to see. I believe we're looking at a score right now in the electoral that is 177 to 99. That is 177 to 99 in the favor of Donald J. Trump. Obviously, we know the path is to 270. We're still waiting on some important races that our polls are closing. Let's just look in the Jewish way of looking at poll results, which is WhatsApp. From my friend Alex, make that a website. Georgia and North Carolina, as vote continues to leak in, the bar for Harris to clear is getting higher and higher. Trump looks good to be in position to win those states with 72% of the vote in for Georgia and 50% in for North Carolina. Still a way to go. So that is incredible news for all those who are rooting for a Donald J. Trump victory tonight. Georgia and North Carolina are leaning in Donald Trump's direction. I am yet to see a swing state that is leaning in the direction of Kamala Harris. So that is something that many of you may be happy to hear. Some of you don't care and you're just trying to figure out how this got on your TV. Maybe ask your spouse. I don't know. Anyways, I think we're going to be joined by our next guest in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Who is this guest? How do I call him? I see his mic and his camera's off. Hey, how are you there? How you doing over there, Mr. Gordon? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. It's very noisy. We hear you a little bit. Okay, we are live at.
We had a victory party in Lawrence. I can step out of the room if you really can't hear.
Yeah, we really can't. We can't hear you so well. So if you could just step out a little bit, that would be wonderful. I hope they're not serving the steak right now.
Yeah, well, the next steak. We gotta get out. We gotta work our way out of here.
Don't you love live TV, everybody? This is how it's done. You know, this isn't Fox News. This is not. We're not perfect robots. We're human beings. All right, you walk to that quiet place. Okay, talk to us. You've been watching elections. You've been watching elections for 50 plus years. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the early results of tonight?
Yeah, well, I've been monitoring the New York Times projections for this evening, right? And right now, the New York Times is saying that Trump has a 66% chance of winning the presidency. They have him coming in. Last time I looked, which was about 5 minutes ago, they have him at 284 electoral votes. As you know, you need 270 to clinch the presidency.
You're so popular. You're so popular.
Well, not as popular as you. I don't know. I have to work very hard to catch up to you.
That's not true. I wasn't invited to a watch party tonight.
I'll tell you, if I'm going to Nassau County Republican headquarters after they finish here.
Well, so that's a good sign, because I remember you told me before that if things are going well, you're going to go to Nassau County headquarters. So things are going well.
Yes, things are going well. Things are looking very positive. The New York Times, somebody's birthday here also. The New York Times is projecting. We're at a birthday party too. I didn't know whose birthday it was. But they had a birthday. Hopefully, how old are they? We're gonna hopefully get some birthday cake also before I leave. The Times is projecting a Trump win right now. They projected that he'll get as much as 284 electoral votes or more. There's still some important states that have not announced their totals. But just before I walked out of that room, I'm out here to talk to you. They announced that Ted Cruz was reelected in Texas.
That is breaking news for us right over here. Ted Cruz has been reelected in the great state of Texas. That has not come as a shock, but it was a hard-fought race over there. Let me ask you, as a writer, as an editor, as a publisher of the 5 Jewish Times, if Donald Trump secures this victory tonight, what is the title of your article on that front page going to be?
I started writing it earlier today.
Oh, so you're manifesting it.
Well, we have to go to press tomorrow, as you know.
Yeah.
But the title of my headline, I'm probably going to change it tomorrow. Right now, it's election exhaustion. That's that's how I'm looking at it. This has been emotionally draining because I think really for the first time in my life, I think that the dichotomy and the contrast between the two candidates really represented very distinct and very almost opposite philosophies about governance, about what a country should look like, and how a country should make its way into the future. I don't think, the Jewish community signs on to the Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris, it was obvious to any voter with a little bit of a thought process, was just an instrument of a democratic mechanism. It wasn't about a person with a vision. As you know, all your everyone watching us and all the readers know, you didn't articulate any of her positions in any real way that we could be able to grasp and understand. It was very evasive,
Yeah.
very uncertain, and even though he said many things that contradicted our original, our well-known positions, she changed all those positions, like on fracking and on abortion and
Yeah.
on other things. But you have to understand, back when she had her interview on CNN, before she said that she was against fracking, but now she's for fracking, before she said that, she did say the following line. She said, "My values haven't changed," which means that if she would be elected, they would say, "But you said you're for fracking now." She would say, "Yes, but I did say before that my values haven't changed." I'm not getting those texts as they come in here. But anyway, I don't know how the local congressional elections are doing here on Long Island yet, but we're going to find out soon. We should
Okay.
know by 10 o'clock. We should know by 10 o'clock. So if you want to check back with me.
Yes, sir. That's
and
what.
I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that today in Israel, today Prime Minister Netanyahu fired his defense minister.
Yeah, it's our
Yoav
understanding that
Gallant.
there are protests in the streets of Israel right now because of that.
Yeah, those are the Harris type of voters protesting and but anyone that's anti-Netanyahu is also anti-Trump. But someone said to me earlier today that they take that Netanyahu had an indication that Trump was going to be elected. And that's why he took the step of firing
Wow.
Gallant, and because he knows that they're going to, once Trump is in office, they're going to take off the chains that the Biden administration has on him. The same way they have the chains on Ukraine, the military chains on Ukraine, restraining them from doing what they have to do. Really, you have to understand. I don't mean to jump around, but in the Russia,
You're doing the weave
war,
right now. You heard of the weave?
Yes, over 2 years, the Russia-Ukraine war, over 1 million people have died.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's awful.
It's an unnecessary war. So it's going to stop eventually, and Russia's going to take some of the Ukrainian territory, which is a country 10 times the size of Israel, maybe 20 times the size of Israel.
Yeah.
But everything is. Let me just make one more point. And the fact of the matter is that I think that a win in Pennsylvania, if you don't know who's going to win Pennsylvania.
Oh, we lost your audio.
A win in Pennsylvania. Now you hear me, right? A win in Pennsylvania.
You were getting a phone call, weren't you?
No. My AirPods have a personality of their own. A win in Pennsylvania will push Trump over 270 most likely.
Wow.
Giving him a mandate, but you have to understand that Harris came very close to appointing the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro.
Yeah, we discussed that earlier tonight. How that might go down as one of the biggest mistakes that she's ever made.
Well, you know what? But she was afraid if she appointed a Jewish vice president, she would lose a lot of the anti-Israel and the leftists and the pro-Palestinian vote. So she went with Tim Walz. So at the end of the day, if this is the way that it concludes, you have to understand that we're going to have to probably thank, even though he's dead now, Yahweh Sinwar of Hamas for really determining the direction of this election. Because if Sinwar hadn't attacked Israel on October 7th of 2023, it could very well be there would be no war in Gaza or in Lebanon. And right now, Jackie Pirro would be the vice presidential candidate for
Yeah.
Democrats, and he could have led the way to a Democratic win. So you see the
Yeah.
Shaka Bishmael
Yes.
in everything.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We'll circle back with
Okay.
you pretty soon.
You're staying on. You're staying on too much, right?
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully this thing is called a little earlier. But we'll circle back. Enjoy dessert. I hope you get a piece of that cake.
Yeah, I'm gonna go piss by the table now. See what I can do.
All right. Before we get to our next guest, thank you for joining us. Before we get to our next guest, sent to me over here at the HH. Who said that, by the way? Oh, who projected him to win the futures? So this is going to be pretty cool for every those who are playing in the stock market. Market futures are way up. I'm talking about plus 445, plus 110, plus 58, plus 53. The stock market is projecting that Donald Trump is going to win this election, and people are going to make some money, I guess, tonight. So let's get ready. We are ready for our next guest, and that is Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg, the senior rabbi out of the Boca Raton Synagogue. Rabbi Goldberg, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here tonight. I'm going to ad-lib a little bit more until I see you. Oh, there you are. Rabbi Goldberg, so nice to be here again with you.
Great to be with you, Nachi. How are you tonight?
I am doing great. I haven't got up from this seat in around 2.5 hours, which I never thought I could do. So we learn new things every day.
The night is just beginning. I hope you're comfortable and don't have too much water to drink.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I know that I'm not going to even try. You are a rabbi in Boca Raton of a tremendous shul, tremendous kahila. I'm not going to even try to get any endorsement or anything out of you about who's going to win, yada, yada, yada. The values, though, the values that you hold near and dear to your heart and that the Jewish people you feel should hold near and dear to their heart as well. What is that?
For me, the top three issues that I vote for and encourage other people to vote for are Israel, Israel, and Israel. The safety and security of Israel is our safety and security, not only because that is a place of refuge, it's a place of protection, it's a place where we belong, it's a place of destiny, but because the strength of the Jewish community outside of Israel directly correlates with the strength of Israel. When Israel is able to pull off the pager experience of eliminating Hezbollah fighters, when Israel is able to assassinate terrorists that America has a bounty on their head, then people in America look up to Jews, are more afraid of Jews, intimidated by Jews. Jews have greater influence. So Israel is our homeland. Israel is the future. Israel is our destiny. And you are correct that I don't believe that rabbis, I didn't sign either letter for or against endorsing. I think it's a mistake for a active Rav to endorse, to take a political position. But I
want to just hone in on that because it's interesting. I ran a poll earlier this month asking people if they feel that rabbis, leaders in the Orthodox community, should be endorsing a candidate. Out of around 2,000 votes, we had like a 78% of people saying yes, they want to see that. So you believe not? Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, part of it's illegal, right?
There you go.
Under the 501c3, you're not allowed to. It happens to be black churches and many others have thrown that out the window, could care less. So from that perspective, that's not what would hold me back alone, because if other people can not abide by that, I don't know if that's more equivalent to jaywalking or more equivalent to a law which is binding or accountable. But there is a legal component to it. But I think much bigger than the legal component to it, the bottom line is that all of us in our shuls have people on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
And why would I want to take a public position that will alienate? And I don't mean alienate like they won't vote for me for my next contract. I mean alienate that if someone will hesitate to ask their halachic question, if someone will hesitate to come for guidance or advice, if someone will hesitate to take counsel because they say, look, that guy's all in on this candidate or that party, and I feel so disconnected and so little in common. And I have to tell you, Nachi, I also feel that my training as a Rav and my Rebbeim and my life doesn't necessarily position me to have a more authentic or authoritative position on who will be the right person for the issues I care about. Now, the issues, I think, are guided by Torah. So our job is to communicate, here are the issues we should think about. Here are the issues that matter most. Here's what should influence our vote and our support. Who you think will do the better job of bringing about that result? You decide. I have my opinions. They happen to be pretty strong opinions. People who know me and off the pulpit, I'll talk about at a Shabbos table or personally or privately. I'm not shy and I don't hide. But from the pulpit, I think it's an abuse of the pulpit. It's a strong word, but I think it's an abuse of the pulpit to try to take a position. I think it's strategically foolish. You can alienate and lose connections with whatever percentage of your membership, depending where you are. And I think it's an abuse of the position, and it's not necessarily our authority.
I hear that. I hear that point. I want to ask you. You know, it takes me back to my time as a kid, just 2 years ago, when I was in camp. Well, it wasn't 2 years ago. It was 3 years ago. What? But I was in camp. I remember color war, which it's the closest thing you can compare an election to is color war. And you have at the end of color war, one team is winning and one team is losing. And the people on the winning team, it's just like the person who's showboating, the person is just all haughty about it. There's nothing that hurts the person on the losing team more. You're the rub of a community, which very well be maybe people who voted for Kamala Harris and they might feel that she's the one and they feel strongly about that. And you have people who voted for Donald Trump and he's the one and they feel strongly about that. No matter which way it goes, you know, as a rabbi who's talking to Jews around the world right now about this election, and we've been living in this election cycle for a while now.
Yeah.
The tension is hot. We've seen assassination attempts. We've seen character attacks in all different directions. For the Jewish people who are watching this, who might be on different sides of the aisle,
Yeah.
how can we act with respect towards each other when our ideas are so different?
It's such an important question. It's such an important point, Nachi, because in the end of the day, I think that is what has to differentiate us, is to realize that we can come to different, legitimate, reasonable conclusions, but we have to focus much more on what we have in common than that which separates us. You know, on October 6th, the Jewish people were divided over judicial reform, Israeli politics, religion. There was so much that divided. And October 7th came along and reminded us, often or too often it takes our enemies to remind us that we have more in common that separates us. And by October 8th, nobody cared about those differences. All we cared about was survival. All we cared about was triumph over our enemies. All we care about now are the hostages coming home and our soldiers being safe. And while we're still debating those issues and they're important and they've come back to the fore in Israel, but they're, I hope, debated differently and they're seen against a different context and backdrop than they were because we know what's at stake. And I hope in America it could be the same way. You know, I remember you were too young. Were you born 9/11?
Oh, come on.
But
I was 6.
9/11, there you go. I remember 9/11. You know, the days that followed 9/11, the patriotism, the unity in this country, it was off the charts. It was unbelievable. And it so quickly, unfortunately, disappeared as well. So I hope, you know, I don't know when we'll know the results of this election, late tonight or tomorrow, or maybe not even until the next day. Whenever it will be, I hope that neighbors, family members, shul members will be able to say, you know, however you voted, this is a result, and it's in all of our interests. It's in America's interest, Israel's interest, for whoever wins to succeed and to have our support. So, you know, rally around what we have in common, not which that divides us. It's a tragedy that in the past, people definitely used politics as a wedge issue. And there were people who called others self-hating Jews or you don't love Israel and questioning. And I think that's a mistake. And that's where it's going to be hard to recover from those kinds of things. So there are debates to have, and they're reasonable debates, and one can have them, but in a context, and to disagree agreeably, and to never get to a point. You know, there are families that didn't talk in previous elections when people were voting in different directions. I actually got an email yesterday from somebody who had a disagreement with a member of their family over text on these issues to the point that there was such a rift they're not talking. And that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. So it is critically important that we stay focused.
That is very important. I want to ask you if no matter which way this election goes, you get up there on the pulpit on Shabbos and you speak to your members. Is there any mention of an election, or we pretend it doesn't exist? You know,
Yeah, sure. I mentioned it today. I gave a parsha this morning. I spoke to Milchamar. I spoke several times, and each time I talked about including it in our davening. Because Leiv Malachim Biyad Hashem, you know, one of the challenges that we have in this world is we've become so immersed, so saturated with, as you said, this prolonged election cycle, and we get swept up. I mean, I can't wait for these ads to end. I can't wait for these phone calls, robocalls to end. I can't wait for these text messages I never asked for to end. We all can't wait for it to end, or hopefully it's ended now as of today. But we get swept up in thinking that like this is everything, and which candidate and what's going to be, and this is Leiv Malachim Biyad Hashem. We have to do our shtadlus. You know, you want to go campaign, certainly vote, I think is a halachic responsibility, an ethical responsibility, a Jewish responsibility. Everybody had to go vote, should go vote. But in the end of the day, you do your shtadlus, you take your initiative, you go vote, you campaign, you try to persuade people if that's your thing. And then afterwards, you let go and you let God and you say, Hashem's the one who determines outcomes of election. And it can't come out differently than the way Hashem wants. So we do our effort, but I think too many, including members of the Frum community, and this may be a bit controversial, but it saddens me a lot that it seems we didn't learn the lessons of 4 years ago, that some of the Orthodox deification, it's one thing to embrace a candidate. We have gratitude, we have Hakaras Hatov. Candidates done things for Israel, for the Jewish community, we believe is part of our Jewish future. Certainly we should be grateful, we should express that gratitude. I have directly, I've had the opportunity to do so. But gratitude is one thing, and patriotism and support is one thing. And this glorification and deification and making somebody like a god and using psukim or language that we reserve for the holiest of people, it's selling our souls, it's selling ourselves short. It's a huge mistake. Leiv malachim biyad Hashem. Al tiftechu b'nedivim. We say it in davening every single day. Don't put your faith and don't invest too much in your princes, in your political leaders, in your everything. And it's a huge message. You know, even as people have advocated for the people that they want to win, you know, the lawn signs invoking psukim, Hebrew language, we got to do it in a context. We got to do it in moderation. We got to do it in a way that preserves the integrity of the frum community and our frum values without selling them out. So, and I think there's a way to do that. We've always done that. We've had relationships, we've had influence. We've wanted to influence our future. We want to influence outcomes of elections. We've always done that. And, you know, I've been privileged in Palm Beach County in Florida. Florida is no longer a swing state. Florida's now actually been turned red. But for many of my
Miami,
years,
we mentioned Miami Beach has turned red, which is
wild.
Yeah,
absolutely wild. Palm Beach County probably not, but it's absolutely wild. So we've turned red, but we've hosted we've hosted presidential candidates, and we have relationships with our senators and our Congress people. The chance to text them already. Congratulations tonight, our incredible Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who I disagree with about almost everything except Israel, and Israel's all that matters. Jared Moskowitz has been amazing on Israel since October 7th, and I'm glad he remains our representative. So there's ways to have relationships and so show support, vote, advocate, host, but stopping short of selling ourselves because we're deifying and glorifying and people with character that's not consistent with our own. And I say that on both sides. You can guess who I'm talking about.
So before I let you go, I just want to, you know, give you the opportunity to mention, you know, when it comes to elections, we've heard many debates, and the candidates go back and forth on ideas that are important to them. They usually mention things that are plaguing the country and how they, you know, will assume to fix it. I want you to finish a sentence for me and to go on. Sure. The biggest issue plaguing Klal Yisrael right now is blank, and what we need to do to fix it is blank. If you were running I guess you were like running for Kohen Gadol. Is that like the Kohen Gadol position? Like,
I have nothing to do with the election. You're just asking me the agenda of the Jewish people, the challenge of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think that it's not being addressed enough, and that's the strength of the home, relationships in the home, connections, marriage, parenting, passion, feeling connected to people around us. I think that there are a lot of crises, the shidduch crisis, the tuition crisis, this crisis, the other crisis. But, you know, just being a moral man in today's world, how about that crisis? How about the crisis of how to get to the end of the day, making enough money to keep up with your neighbor, to pay your bills, squeezing your daf yomi, your 3 minyanim a day, your shmiras einayim, your shmiras habris. It's superhuman what's being asked of us. And who's talking about that? Who's giving the strength and the chizuk? Who's creating the groups and the opportunities to grow? For men, for women, parenting, children. So there's a lot of crises that we address on the outside, but sort of on the inside, you know, what are we doing about that? I think is something which is really important. And there are some strategies, but I think that we need to address it because it may not rise in our face as the biggest crisis, but it I think is the source of so many of the symptoms that we see. It's the disease of which so many of the symptoms we're suffering from.
That is beautiful. Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy night to join us over here, and hope to speak to you again soon. This is great.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nach. I'll tell you one last thing I just want to add. You know, today's a powerful day for me. I think it is for you. That's probably why you're hosting this tonight. You're not trying to compete with Fox and CNN and everyone else, you know, announcing, you know, from the Meaningful People desk, an announcement. I think what it's about is feeling that there's something big going on. You know, Jews lived forever. For most of our exile, we lived in countries that we didn't get to vote. We didn't shape our destiny and our future. We were passive spectators and victims of it. And to live in a country that we can vote, we can determine our destiny, what a privilege, what a blessing. Avram Avinu said, Ger v'toshev anochi imachem. When he goes to buy Maras HaMachpelah, he tells Ephron and the people, he says, I am a resident and a stranger with you. And Rav Soloveitchik said that is the marching order, the mission statement of every Jew. Ger v'toshav. I'm a citizen, I'm a resident, and I'm also a stranger. And I think that's exactly the mentality that we have. On the one hand, as observant Torah Jews, we have nothing in common. We are aliens. We're utterly different. We're strangers to this culture, pop culture of this world. But on the other hand, we're proud participants and residents. Ger, but I'm also a toshav. So on a day like today that you get to vote, and the patriotism and the consequence of the vote and the transition of power, transfer of power, these are days that we should be unabashed, unashamed to say, I'm excited, I get goosebumps. It's a religious experience to be able to shape our destiny. Rav Moshe had no problem saying there's an obligation, and it's something really exciting and invigorating for me, and I hope we find the results in a good time, and we dive into Hashem that whatever the results are, they're good for Am Yisrael, they're good for the world, they bring an end to our wars and our hostages and our soldiers home, and Nachi, thanks for all that you do to add meaning to our lives.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Goldberg. We have some breaking news coming out of Jackson Township. Guys, hold on to your seats. Mordechai Bernstein has been elected as the first Orthodox Jewish councilman in Jackson Township. Get this, winning by just 114 votes. 114 votes won the election for Mordechai Bernstein in Jackson. That is via Shlomo Shore, who will be joining us soon. That is incredible. For all those people out there in Jackson who went out to vote, and I'm sure there's 114 of you that maybe had a thought across your mind at some point that I don't know if I want to go out and vote right now. What does it matter? My guy got no chance. There's never been an Orthodox Jew in the council over there. Well, guess what? Tonight is your night to celebrate because you took that power into your own hands. Thank God. Thank you, Hashem. You decided that you're going to lean into the ability that God gave you, this country gave you, which is to vote. And Mordechai Bernstein won because of you, because you did not say no. You said yes. We'll be right back after a few words from our friends at Achiezer, and I'll speak to you soon. Stay tuned. Do not change that channel. I'm here with Rabbi Baruch Barbender from Achiezer, and it's my understanding that Webster has a new word because of you, because you use it so often, and that is the word automaticity. Is that a word, and what does it mean to you?
Yes, it's an actual word, Nachi. For those that don't believe me, you can look it up. For my staff that didn't believe me, they now believe it. What does the word mean? It means the 20 staff members of Achiezer are automatically and always ready and willing to help. And they deal with the craziest things, the simplest things, be it a terrible death, be it a terrible medical situation that needs crazy interventions. It's a group of people that automatically, see, I'm trying to build off the word here, and always respond to the need. And somehow I wonder how they get it done. And the times they get it done, it could be like on Yom Tif when everybody else is who knows where they should be. And the Achiezer staff is somehow, it's like automatic. You just pick up the phone, and I'm in awe of the people in this organization that just every day accomplishing bigger, better, and crazier things for people in the community when they need it most. And it's become so automatic, sorry we're sounding cliche now, that even I have to pinch myself sometimes after a recent board meeting, it's unbelievable what's happening. So it's the automaticity of it is it's terrifying because of what comes in, but it's also beautiful to see what Achiezer has been able to accomplish over the last 15 years.
And that's why our listeners right now, our viewers who are right now watching this election results, but here in this ad break, head to achiezer.org and smack that donate button.
Oh, listen,
it's not automatic.
And it may de-stress you, because I think it's probably a rough day for fundraising, because who's head's in the game today, Nachi? Everybody is everybody's preoccupied.
Well, I'll tell you what, no matter who's elected by the end of tonight, Achiezer's needs remain the same, and that is crucial for the community.
And we will answer the phone call tomorrow morning, regardless of who is the president-elect. I promise you that much.
Welcome back, everybody. I am now joined by Avi Schnall from New Jersey. Avi Schnall, thank you so much for joining me. I know you have a busy night. I know maybe you're on the way to some sort of celebrations. Tell me, let's start off by talking about Mordechai Bernstein, who's been elected in Jackson Township by just 114 votes. Can we talk about that?
Incredible night. Hello, Nachi. How are you?
Are you really asking? Do you really want to know how I'm doing? I'm at war with these in-ears right now. My ears are... How are you?
I'm doing great.
Okay, awesome.
Doing great. It's a good night so far. Lakewood Township, Committeeman Lichtenstein and Committeeman Menashe Miller both sled to victory. They did a phenomenal job. All the local elections that we were hoping for, the results came in as we were hoping for. In Jackson Township, Mordechai Bernstein etched out a victory. He had just about a 90% turnout in the Orthodox community, which is ultimately what gave him the election. He won by 140 votes. There may still be some mail-in ballots that still have to be counted. There may still be some provisional ballots that may need to be counted, but as of right now, with all districts counted, all the early votes counted, he won by 140 votes, which just shows how important every single vote is. That's the bottom line. This is a case study example of how critical every single vote is, especially in these local elections that are perhaps more consequential than some of the big elections that we get very excited about. The local elections, your potholes, your street lights, your crossing guards, your property taxes, the things that you deal with day in and day out, those are the local officials. And it comes down to 140 votes.
That's unbelievable. And I hope he does hold on to that victory, because that is a great underdog story. And it's also a great story to really, lean into what you just said about every single vote counts. 144 or 114 people, whatever it is. It's unbelievable. Well, right now, Donald Trump holds a 188 over 99 lead versus Kamala Harris. I want to get your thoughts on the election, the presidential election. What have you been hearing, seeing? What are your thoughts on how it's looking?
So I think everyone's hearing and seeing the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's going to the same 10, 15 polls, same 10, 15 websites. It does seem like Donald Trump is going to pull away with a victory, but no one can say at this point. It all comes down to the 7 swing states. That's what it comes down to. And none of them have, except for North Carolina, which Donald Trump did win. I guess now we're down to 6 swing states. And it all comes down to those states. That's what it comes down to. It may come down to Pennsylvania. It may really come down to whoever wins that state will be the victor. But at this point, polls in Pennsylvania are still open.
Yeah.
And in many of those states. So it's just too early for anyone to say that either one of them have it in the bag. No one's got it in the bag yet.
Yeah, that is true. As we're talking, I see a report from Balaz News, and I know you are in New Jersey and you serve there, but New York's Proposition 1 has passed. This is a referendum that codifies abortion, but uses vague language Republicans said would open the door to much more progressive causes. Both sides spent millions of dollars in marketing for this. Your initial thoughts about Proposition 1 being passed?
It's not a surprise. It's unfortunate, but it's not a surprise. That's something that I think many people expected. Definitely there was a big push from Kehila to oppose it, which was successful in getting people to come out to vote against it, but it wasn't enough. And I don't think it was even close. The numbers that I saw was like a 70-30 spread. So it's not a shocker. It may be unfortunate, but it's not a shocker.
Well, let me ask you, what do you have in store for the rest of your night? I have a feeling that it's just getting started for you.
It's getting started. Right now, as soon as we finish this conversation, I'm heading down to Cherry Hill for an election victory party with the new senator of the state of New Jersey, Senator Andy Kim, which this is the first new senator New Jersey is having since 2013.
Oh, wow.
So this is the first time there's a new senator in over a decade. So it's a fresh face on the national scene representing the state of New Jersey. We know Andy Kim well, and we're excited to what the next 6 years is going to bring. And we wish him all the best. And that's our first stop. And from there, we're going to work our way back up the state, and we'll see where else we stop off.
That's amazing. I want to get your reaction on something that just came up from CNBC before I let you go. The Dow futures have jumped 500 points as people are projecting a Donald Trump victory tonight. for people who you serve, for the people you speak to, affordability, money, the cost of things, can we really expect to see things change over the next 4 years?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, but I think there's more optimism from the business community. Definitely for the business community. Inflation is high. People are struggling. That's the bottom line. So the last 4 years were tough on people. So it's not surprising to me that the business community is reacting in a positive way towards the development of a potential Trump victory. These aren't surprises. So, we'll see rates go down probably. We'll see other things change depending on who the victor is. If it ends up being Donald Trump, it definitely is going to make a shift, an immediate shift, because of the excitement and the hopes and things may get better. But then again, you never know how things will actually end up being over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
There's a lot to tell. I think what's more important for everyone to know, which I'm sure you've discussed this in the program tonight, is that the executive branch, the president, is one of three legs to the stool. There's the Congress, there's the House of Representatives, there's the Senate, and then there's the president. And each one plays a critical role. So even if one wins that branch, there's still the two other branches that have to be balanced out. So there's a lot going on tonight besides just, which is big in itself for the presidential election. There's control of the Senate, there's control of the House, there's many local elections, there's lots of Board of Ed elections. There are 3 states that have ballot questions regarding school choice. Colorado, Nebraska, I think there's one more, I can't remember which one it is, but there's 3 states that have ballot questions on school choice laws. That's a very big deal. I think Kentucky was the 3rd one. So there's a lot happening tonight. There's a lot going on that we're excited to see the results.
As I talk to you, there's something going on in the studio over here, and that is about Pennsylvania. What is going on with Pennsylvania? What's that? The projection on Pennsylvania switched from going blue to going red.
Time will tell. I think it's way too early to call. And the polls in Pennsylvania just closed, and there are probably thousands of people that are still online that haven't voted yet in Pennsylvania. So it's early.
Yeah.
It's early. People shouldn't get out of themselves. The last thing you want is someone to call it and call it wrong.
That is true. That is true. Well, Avi Schnall, thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you a great rest of your night, and maybe take a week or 2 off tomorrow,
Thank you, Nak. I think you should take one as well.
I will.
You're doing a great job. Have a great night, Naki. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For all our viewers at home, you heard that. I want to mention also that Wisconsin, in the counties that have reported around 50% of the vote over there, Trump is outperforming nearly across the board. It's still very early, even those counties, but it's still shaping up to be the best chance to break the blue wall. So Trump's best path right now to winning this presidency is Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. That is Pennsylvania aside. Pennsylvania, we're not even going to rely on to know about. Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, those are things to look at. The betting markets. A lot of people are texting me about the betting markets. I don't know why, but the betting markets are above 80% in the direction of Donald J. Trump. Trying to go ahead and refresh this betting market. 83% for Donald J. Trump to 20% for Kamala Harris. We have, that is touchscreen. Okay, I guess we'll never know. I want to give a big shout out to the people in the studio over here that are making this possible. My friends Shammai, Pesach, Nissen, who are here all night. Hopefully not all night, actually. Not that much longer. Shammai has me on our meter, like the Israeli guy in the cab. I'm kidding. But this has been fun. This has been great. This is something new that we're doing, and we hope to continue our coverage tonight. But first, a quick word from my friends at, you guessed it, PZ Deals.
Meet David. This is David's phone. David finds out about crazy deals from forwards to his family chat and is always a minute too late. Don't be a minute behind. Sign up to be the first to the craziest airline deals, credit card offers, and online deals. Join PZ Deals today. Download the PZ Deals app and never pay full price again.
What they don't tell you about doing live TV like this is that these in-ear, I don't know what is going on. These things, I'm having a war with these tonight, all night, killing my ears, but that won't stop me because we are all the way up. Okay, we are now going to be joined by Shlomo Shore from the great state of New Jersey. Shlomo Shore, who is in the waiting room, or is he not in the waiting room? Shlomo Shore. Do I have Shlomo Shore on the line, calling in from a beautiful studio a few miles south of me? Shlomo Shore, how are you? Do you hear me?
I got you.
There we go. What's going on?
Good, Nachi. First of all, I guess this counts as talking in person.
I guess, you're added to the list of people who I've never met in person, but I spoke to on the phone.
Did I see you briefly at the convention last year? We didn't meet, but I thought I saw. Does that make sense?
Yes. I've definitely made my appearances at the Agoda convention,
This year.
Yes. So, Shlomo, talk to me. I read your tweet live on the air about Mordechai Bernstein. Tell me about that victory.
So this is a historic night in Jackson for several reasons. First of all, what happened here tonight is not just the first Orthodox Jewish councilman being elected to the town council in Jackson, which is huge in of itself, overcoming massive opposition, and credit to Morty Bernstein for what he did. He pulled out every stop. He did everything he had to do. And I told him yesterday, you could go to sleep tonight knowing you did what you had to do. But on top of that, what we saw was an astonishing 90% turnout from the Orthodox Jewish community's 4,600 voters tonight. And if you needed a more dramatic example of every vote counts, you got it here tonight in Jackson Township, Ocean County, New Jersey, because literally 114 votes. And by the way, that might still tighten as more mails and provisionals come out, though I spoke to people over there on the ground who tell me they're confident the remaining votes will break his way. But a historic night in Jackson, both on a community level, on his individual level. Congratulations to Jackson going forward. Hopefully this will be good for both the township at large, who he represents, obviously, and for the Jewish community, which has struggled for many years now, but is now finally moving forward in a positive way for both themselves, the community, and the township as a whole.
Yeah, something when you mention Jackson to anybody who lives in a kind of pioneer community, Jackson is one of those places that have visibly struggled at every juncture to build shuls, to get busing, to do all these things that a Frum community wants to do over the past few years. And here we have a situation where a Frum Jew is elected in the council. So talk about that victory, I guess, for Jackson. Some people who are watching this don't understand what they've been through to get here.
Absolutely. And I know you just had on my predecessor, Avi Schnall, New Jersey office, and under his leadership, the Aguda filed and fought a lawsuit, a long 8-year legal battle, which only culminated several months ago, which resulted in a couple ordinances being adopted by the township, allowing shuls to be built in a responsible manner, that makes sense for both the community, the growing community, and the township as a whole. And not just shuls are included in here, but erevim, mikvais, simcha halls, everything that a growing Jewish community needs. And I should add, everyone talks about the amazing growth that the Lakewood Orthodox Jewish community has. Jackson has now outpaced Lakewood in growth percentage-wise. Just tremendous surge we've seen basically really since 2020, since COVID, when people started looking for more affordable options outside of Lakewood. It is now the second to largest Jewish community in New Jersey outside of Lakewood, overtaking Passaic, and alone by itself, one of the largest Orthodox Jewish communities in the United States of over 16,000 people right now. So it's a tremendous night for Jackson. They struggled for a long time, but another milestone tonight following the lawsuit, which was recently settled, and which now allows them to move forward as any Jewish community should and can rightfully under the U.S. Constitution.
That is incredible and big. Congratulations to them. I want to ask you, Shlomo, I know you've been following the race pretty closely, the presidential election, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. What do you see right now, and where do you see this thing going?
So it's definitely been an interesting night so far. Obviously, so far each candidate winning the states that they desperately needed to. Most Trump, North Carolina, Kamala Harris, the vice president in Virginia, picking up states that they could not afford to lose. So right now, however, even in those states, Trump is performing, I think, a lot better than people expected in certain areas. For example, Lumberton County in Virginia, with educated white woman doing a lot better than people would have expected going into tonight, which might forebode poorly for the Harris campaign. I think at this moment in time, at just past 10 Eastern, I would rather be on the Trump campaign than on the Harris campaign. But still a long night, a lot of counting ahead, a lot of states as of 15 minutes ago still to be counted. Crucially, Pennsylvania, some others. On the Senate level, we should add, the Republicans are in a very good spot. They look favored to take control of the Senate, and the House will probably won't know for another week or so, because that looks to be really tight as well. But the presidency the race for the White House seems to favor former President Trump. And just to add in a little bit of Lakewood trivia, the only other president to do that was Grover Cleveland, who lived in Lakewood, and in fact was living in Lakewood when he was elected to his second term. He was vacationing there, and the only other president to return to the White House after previously being defeated. Looks like Trump is, we're not getting ahead of ourselves at all, but definitely the favorite at this time.
That's great to hear. You are in a really cool place right now. You are out the Kola Olam live stream. Could we get a little bit of a tour? Or are you like?
I walked into a side room here. There's a lot going on here. I know a lot of your buddies are here.
Yeah, my buddies.
And hopefully we can join forces a little bit later tonight. I can definitely give you guys a tour. They have a really high tech facility here that they put together. They're doing an amazing job, the guys here at Kala Olam and Mishpacha, and hopefully you guys can join up and collaborate, because you just have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, Shlomo, thank you so much for taking time out. Send my best regards to Menachem, to Usher, to Shmuley, to everyone at the team over there, and I hope to speak to you guys soon.
Awesome. Looking forward, and really happy I was able to join you, my debut on your show. Looking forward to doing it again.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Good
Shlomo.
luck, Nahi. Great to talk to you.
Thank you. Before we move on and get to more guests and more news, you know what time it is. It is PZ time. Go ahead and to the App Store on your phone. Search PZ Deals. It's a brand new app. When prices drop, when mistakes happen, you want to be there. So make sure to download the PZ Deals app right now from your phone. PZ Deals, download the app. They've been a staple on WhatsApp for so many years, and right now they made this beautiful, beautiful app. Make sure to download that app right now today. Head to your App Store, download the PZ Deals app. When you go to sleep tonight, all you're going to remember is PZ Deals. All you're going to be hearing in your ears ringing is PZ Deals. The PZ Deals app is something that you need on your phone. And we'll be right back after a few words from my friends at Tavito.
Tovito, Tovito. Walk down Mitzvah Boulevard, climb that mitzvah tree. Dance with rabbits and tap, Asian MS, solve the mystery. Bella Bracha and the Shpai mitzventions we love to see. Robin's Nest and all the rest, there's only one place it's gonna be. Tovito, Tovito, Tovito. Come along to Torah Town, dance with YBC. Shmuel Kunda is telling stories. Hey look, it's Rabbi B. From Parsha and Egunim, there's always something new to see. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show at Tovito. Tovito, Tovito.
Tovito. That's going to be stuck in your head for a few weeks. I can't read lips. Yes, make sure to use promo code MM10 for 10% off your subscription at Tovito.com. That is Tovito. Oh. Thank you so much, Tovito. And make sure to head to Tovito.com. We are now joined by one of the most sought after guests and people who have been, the feedback we've been getting about even having this guest on tonight is next level. I am so happy to bring on to the stage Chaim Krangle. Chaim, how are you? Yeah, we got to unmute. You got to turn that phone sideways, brother.
Right now.
Hey, Chaim, what's going on? Where are you?
What's going on, Nassau? I'm actually right down now. I'm in Ballabon by the Nassau County GOP headquarters. The people are coming in now. We have Anthony D'Esposito here, who runs for Congress. We have Senator Kenneth Fitzpatrick. We have Ari Brown here. And the energy in the room is amazing right now. And we're hoping for a clean sweep tonight.
Okay, amazing. So what's the race looking like for Anthony? Tell us how close it is. I've been focusing on so many different areas. I haven't heard a lot about this race.
So it happens to be the D'Esposito race, the congressional race, is probably going to be one of the most watched races in the entire nation. It's tight right now, but we're going to win.
Is that a prediction?
In the prediction, I'm not the best poller out there, but we're hoping for good results tonight.
Okay, amazing. Well, I want to ask you. I know you've been following this Trump race pretty closely. Your buddy Bruce Blakeman, we spoke to before. He's cautiously optimistic. What are you feeling about this Trump or Harris race right now?
So this morning when we were at the GOP headquarters down in Franklin Square, Donald Trump gave us a call with around 15 people in the room. He thanked us for all that we were doing. We were showing our support for him, and he was showing his support for us. And he was just telling us to go out and vote, call people, knock on doors, whatever we need to do to get this election won. And hopefully by the end of the night, we're going to be electing Donald Trump to the 47th president of the United States.
Wow. Even saying that is something that's hard to believe that we're back here again. Obviously, we're going to continue with caution because it ain't over. You know, there's still a lot of votes to count. Ain't that right?
It's not over until it's over. So I saw something what the New York Times said 5 minutes ago. They're predicting 72% winning chance for Donald Trump. But let's wait for the West Coast to really finish up their polling and see what happens.
Okay, incredible. Chaim, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us your insights. We hope to come back to you a little bit later, perhaps, and see what's going on over there as hopefully celebrations are in order. Chaim, thank you so much, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right, Nassau, thanks so much.
You got it. We are now going to dive deep into some of the news that is coming in. Thank you all for watching and listening and messaging me, and those who don't have my number, emailing me. And you know what? As one of those headphones fell out of my ear, and I'm going to put it back in. New York went in Kamala Harris's favor, which is no shock. She won New York. It's one of the few states that are reported in her favor. Right now, the current Electoral College is showing 205 Donald Trump to 117 for Kamala Harris. Now, he really just needs to win a couple of more places, it seems, to be on track to be the next president, the president-elect. And let me tell you, I've heard many times throughout this race, former President Donald Trump say that if he is elected, in his in-between period of being president-elect, before he takes the office, he will end the war. He will end the war in Israel with Gaza. He will end the war in Ukraine and Russia. So if this is, in fact, something that we're going to see, another term of President Trump, we really hope he lives up to what he's spoken about. So we will see what is happening over there. Just to dive into some more news as it comes in. Arizona, early vote is infamous. Maricopa County is +2 for Harris with 50% in. It was +2 for Biden in 2020 overall. That's a good sign for Trump as early vote likely skews Democrat. Georgia, the New York Times has Trump over 90% to win Georgia. Harris has done very well in Atlanta suburbs and tracking in line with Biden in Atlanta itself. But the rest of the state has swung hard to Trump. That is really two swing states, Arizona and Georgia, that we're talking about, as Polymarket just sent me a crazy stat. And that is that Polymarket right now is betting at 90% in favor of Donald Trump to win this election. 90% to 9.6%. That is, wow. I don't know. There was a lot of nerves. I didn't endorse any candidate, but any election brings a lot of nerves. And it's quite scary what's happening. But we are believers, aren't we? Going on to some other resorts, it's notable to say right over here that Trump got 46% of the Jewish vote in New York. Do you guys think that's something that's special? 46%? I don't know. There's a lot of Jews that live in New York. I don't know what percentage. Do you know what percentage of Jews living in New York are Orthodox? Ask Yossi Farrow. You think Yossi's rapping to fill in on somebody somewhere in the world right now? Even though it's nighttime. Like, dude, it's nighttime. It's okay. Okay, let's get some, as this thing keeps falling out of my ear. What? We're going to go ahead to another ad to my friends at Bridge Credit Solutions. We'll be right back. Yes, we'll be back to the live election results in just a second. But, credit report is something that every single person who's watching this has. And maybe you're about to buy a house. Maybe you're trying to open up a new credit card. And you might have more trouble than you think. Because if your credit isn't great, it's not going to be so simple. That's where Bridge Credit Solutions comes in. Me personally, before I bought a house, I checked out my credit, and it was pretty good, but there was a few points off, and that would affect the interest rate. So I called up my friends at Bridge Credit Solutions, and I asked them, hey, can you check this out? And they saw I had like a credit card to a store that I opened up once because I got 10% off, something silly, and I completely didn't know about it, and I forgot about it. They removed that. My credit score went up, my interest rate went down, and I'm saving hundreds of dollars a year over a 30-year mortgage. That's the power of fixing your credit, and that is something that Bridge Credit Solutions could do for you. Something amazing that they've been doing recently that has not been so simple in the past, and not many other companies can do this, is removing auto loans and mortgage loans off of your credit report. So maybe you're giving back a car and a payment was missed, and that can affect your credit. No more. Call Bridge Credit Solutions and get it completely removed from your credit report going forward. BridgeCreditSolutions.com. It is BridgeCreditSolutions.com. There's a link below. Message them on WhatsApp today. You won't regret it. Hello, everybody. Almost got me too quick. It's my honor to be joined by Michael Milch right now. Michael, do you hear me? Are you there? Hello, hello. We got nothing so far. But listen, we're Jews and Gullus. Bound to happen. Michael, do you hear me?
I do hear you.
Hey, how are you?
Good, Baruch Hashem. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Tell me, how's tonight going so far for you? Where are you, and what are you seeing?
I am in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Allegheny County. I'm sure most of your viewers and listeners have heard of Allegheny County, at least in the last couple of hours.
Oh, yeah.
If not the last couple of weeks. But yeah, we are in the heated and contested state of Pennsylvania.
So Pennsylvania is one of those places that Are polls closed there yet, or it's maybe closing?
Polls closed at 8 o'clock.
Oh, wow. So they're still counting the votes there. And what are we seeing really from Pennsylvania in terms of which way this race is leaning right now?
So we've been told to pause and take it slow, right? Because there's
Who told you that? Did Maury tell you that? Who told you that?
Maury definitely told me that,
Ah,
but
man.
others have said that as well.
He got to you.
Yeah, certainly Maury's the best. But this goes back. I mean, it goes back to 2020. There was, the initial Trump surge in Pennsylvania, and then as the later votes were counted in the outside counties of Philadelphia County and Allegheny County, as well as somewhat in what we call Alabama, which is the middle of the country, and the Trump stronghold. Then Joe Biden ended up taking the lead. So we're told to take it slow and to be patient. There are going to be dumps of votes. It keeps going back and forth. If you're watching it very, very closely, I believe Donald Trump just took a lead by thousands of votes in the last couple of minutes, as well as Dave McCormick, who's running for Senate against Bob Casey. But it'll likely flip back and forth a number of times.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. That Donald Trump did just get. It's sort of something that you really can't even really point to. A lead by thousands of votes in a state so big. I do want to speak to you about Pennsylvania in general. John Fetterman did speak about this on Joe Rogan's podcast, where he was concerned for the Democrats and for the Harris campaign in the way that this didn't look like it was going to be a resounding victory for her. And we're seeing right now it's going to be very close, and it might not go her way. And that was something that he spoke about as something to be concerned about for the Democrats. What has happened in Pennsylvania over the last 4 years that is making this race so close?
A lot of jobs have left, and the infrastructure hasn't been cleaned up. So John Fetterman can speak to it. John Fetterman lives about 7 miles from me.
Nice.
I know Senator Fetterman very, very well. He's a good friend, not just of our community, obviously, but of me personally. And so he's been worried about the same things that really all Pennsylvanians worry about, especially here in Allegheny County. And I think we're seeing that, at least we're seeing that right now in the first 50% of votes being counted in Allegheny County. The margins between winning or losing for Harris or for Trump is really 2 to 3 points. And those 2 to 3 points slide from where Joe Biden was in 2020 to where Harris is right now is the difference in the election if it were called this minute. And so it's infrastructure and the amount of jobs and companies that have left Pennsylvania over the last 4 years.
What has it been like, the Jewish vote, like in Pennsylvania? I want to I know I've seen videos of the boys from the Philadelphia Yeshiva going to vote and in different communities there. What has that effort been like to get more of these Jewish communities to turn out and vote? And is that something, I know in Pennsylvania being a serious swing state, it's not stuff that here in New York we have the privilege of, New Jersey either. We vote because we're supposed to vote, but probably voting in Pennsylvania comes with a different feeling of power.
It does. And we're very lucky that we have organizations like the Orthodox Union and Teach PA, and you mentioned Maury earlier, that have made tremendous efforts and strides here in Pennsylvania as well as in other states. Pittsburgh's a little bit different than the eastern part of the state. Western PA is different in terms of the Jewish community. It's a much smaller frum community than they have in Philadelphia. And so we've really rallied around each other. The 1,000 or 1,300 of us I think are very heavily voting Republican and making a statement, because most Jews and most people in Allegheny County are registered Democrats, because it doesn't make much sense to be a Republican in such a Democratic stronghold in terms of primary elections and being able to vote. But to come out and say that we're unhappy with the current ticket or the current administration and want to move in a different direction is a very strong statement. So I don't know that it took as much work for us here in Pittsburgh as it is perhaps in the eastern part of the state, because there's so many more Jews. But tremendous efforts have taken place in Pennsylvania. And like I said, organizations like the OU and others deserve a tremendous amount of credit, because no matter who wins, it sends a strong message to DC that our vote does matter. And especially, to your point, especially in a place like Pennsylvania, where really the difference of 10, 20, 30,000 votes can make all the difference in the world in an election like this. And so it's a credit to those efforts. I think in Pittsburgh, because the Frum community is so small, we've really rallied around each other together with the Rabbanim. And I think, I believe it can make a difference. And I think it may prove to make a difference, as we'll see later on tonight or tomorrow.
Now, don't get this, the wrong way, but I'm not going to ask you for an endorsement, God forbid. I know I'm not going to get that from you, but a projection. What is your gut telling you that come the end of tonight, maybe the clock strikes 12, 1 a.m., are we going to have the next president-elect of the United States?
So I was very, very sure, and those that are close to me know that I was very, very sure going into today that the vice president was going to win. I felt that a lot of us live in our own bubbles and don't really necessarily see the outside world, and felt like the blue wall, as they call it, was going to hold up. And that was really the vice president's path to victory was Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. It still very well may be her path to victory. If she wins the election, it'll definitely be with those three strongholds, and she'll probably win those three states by a combined 100,000 votes or so, if that, which is wild to think about in a country of 200 plus million people. But in terms of a prediction, right now, it looks very shaky for her. And like I said, the margins are so slim that the 1 to 2 or 3 points in either direction can change all of these states in a heartbeat. And I think we're seeing that in some of the other states. I know my focus is Pennsylvania, but in Georgia, North Carolina, the difference of 1 or 2 points or 2.5 points is going to move the election in a totally different direction. And so everybody knew that these were the swing states. They're called that for a reason. And ultimately, it is going to come down to Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. If former President Trump takes any of those states, he's going to win the election. My gut tells me that this is a little bit of 2016 all over again,
right,
where the Democratic hype was a little bit too strong and underestimated the Donald Trump play. And but ultimately, this could be, I don't know that it'll be tonight. It could very well be over the next couple of days as those final votes are counted.
Yeah, and no matter which way this presidential election goes, take Pennsylvania, for example. You have John Fetterman, who is a tremendous friend of the Jewish people. I think we know that Orthodox Jews generally vote Republican. John Fetterman is a Democrat. He has been very, very pro-Israel. He's been so outspoken for Israel and the Jews. But there are also, I'm sure, some opinions he holds that contradict what, for Orthodox Jews believe in. How do you, think that Jewish voters and, Jewish citizens should look at a person like John Fetterman and his views?
I think we should look at John Fetterman the same way we look at Donald Trump. And what I mean by that is I think that there's an element of proven track record on issues and in areas that we care about, as well as Hakaras Hatov. And so we know that there's a certain crazy element to Donald Trump, and there's obviously personality and certain character traits that we may not agree with or want to teach to our kids. But at the end of the day, his first term spoke to somebody who was extremely pro-Israel and was there for our community in this country. And so our expectation, obviously, is that will continue if he's elected the next president of the United States in a second term. And I think the same goes for a Senator Fetterman, who's not up for election for another 4 years. But we should have Hakaras Hatov for the things that we are proud of him for. We should honor him at our school dinners and our community, events, and show him that level of Hakaras Hatov and be there for him in the next campaign if he runs again in 4 years. At the same time, there are areas and issues that we certainly as a community disagree with the John Fetterman on.
Right.
And I think that's okay. I think most real politicians who have been in DC for more than a minute understand that there's almost nobody that agrees with them on everything. And as from Yidden and Gullus, I think it's imperative that we remind ourselves that none of these candidates on either side of the aisle in any position of power are perfect. And at the end of the day, we do our ishtadlus and we vote for those that we feel will make the most difference for us and our community and our Israel. But ultimately, it's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so I think they're very similar to a certain regard. Obviously, they're very different politically and on two different sides of the aisle. But I think it's about showing Hakaras Hatov where necessary and where appropriate, and also holding them accountable when they do things that are wrong. And I think that's an important thing with Donald Trump, who may very well be our next president. I think it's important that we show him all the respect when necessary and when appropriate, but also hold him accountable when he does or says things that are inappropriate and not what we stand for.
I couldn't agree more. I really, really appreciate that, Michael. I really appreciate the time you've given us tonight.
No
And
problem.
thank you for all the work that you do
Pleasure.
for the Jewish people.
Thank you
So,
for the opportunity.
of course, back to some important news. Breaking news, Donald Trump has won the critical state of Georgia, picking up 16 more electoral votes. He now has two. Ooh, that is not on Fox News yet. That's via Yeshiva World. Yeshiva World has Donald Trump at 243 electoral votes. Fox News has Donald Trump at 205. Who do we believe? We'll hold on that. But, seeing more about that, my friend Alex, that, make a website, expect calls for Trump in Kansas, Iowa, and Georgia shortly. So Iowa, the Seltzer report came out just a few days ago. I can't show that. That's great. Oh, wow. Maybe behind the paywall we could show that. But, ooh, you guys gonna be asking me what that was. But Iowa, a recent poll came out just a few days ago showing that Harris had a 5-point lead in Iowa. And we are seeing that it's projected that Iowa is going to go in Donald Trump's favor. This just in, Elon Musk took to his app, X. Can we pull that up? Yeah? Let's pull it up on the screen. What did Elon Musk just tweet? Oh, can we get our cool X pre-segment play? Oh, guys, we worked on something. We're going to show it to you because we worked on it. So get ready for this. Close your eyes. Make believe we can talk about it, and then we're doing it. But it's been a long night. This is live television. This is how it goes. We're not robots over here. Stay tuned. And the live X segment where we're going to look at a tweet that has been tweeted is coming in 3, 5, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Use this up. Yeah, I'm taking this opportunity I'll tell you to download the app from PC Deals. I have it on my phone. It's great. It's a great app. You want to make sure you're using it because why pay full price when you could be paying maybe half price? Georgia, Trump's lead appears insurmountable. He is up by 150,000 votes with just 470,000 outstanding. And Blue Gwinnett County having just reported a big swath of votes that did not have the margin Harris needed. So Georgia is leaning in the direction of Donald Trump. Is Pennsylvania still leaning? What do you thumbs up meaning you have the thingy? Pennsylvania is still leaning in the direction of Donald Trump. These swing states. Oh, okay, so we have updated numbers. 211. We have Trump at 211. So the Yeshiva World number was 243. The Fox number was at 205. And now it's at 211. So that's plus 4. So Yeshiva World technically probably has Trump at 257, which is 13 electoral votes away from the presidency. Is that okay, guys? 84% of the vote is in North Carolina, and Donald Trump is up 50% to 48%. I thought Virginia was done. Virginia is still looking like... We're ready? Oh, guys, check this out. We worked on something pretty cool. Check it out. Okay, we're going... You have the Musk tweet? How was that? I'm now joined by a tweet by Elon Musk that says, game, set, match. So Elon Musk is celebrating, I guess quite early. We're still waiting on a lot of votes. Fox News now projected that Donald Trump wins Iowa. Donald Trump, how many electoral votes is in Iowa? Dun, 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 dun. As I'm saying this, I got a text from my friend at RSK. 6 electoral votes. That's probably how we got to 211. It was at 205, went to 211. So that's math right there on the fly. My teachers are happy about that. RSK Financial Coaching, make the middle class great again. Oh, there they go. I don't need this in my ears right now. I feel a lot better. Make the middle class great again. That is something that RSK is. Oh, wow. Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler is 56.3%. Demondier Jones is 41.7%. Who's with me? Who's the real winner after tonight? You are. You are. You know why? Because you don't have to see those political ads anymore. We don't have to see them. It's done. What? Kansas has been called for Donald J. Trump. This is starting to feel like 2016. What was it at today? Earlier. Bitcoin has gone up 16,000. It's gone up 7,000. Math. Shabbos ready? So Bitcoin is up 8.5% today as our video guy certainly has some coins lying around his living room. What? What's that mean? From Nate on Long Island. Thank you, Nate, in Long Island. Is this mic on? Ooh, we have Meira. Meira's up. We're going to get Meira on. Let's get Meira on. I did. Let's get Meira on. Do you have? Yeah, I sent your number. So make sure to get her on. We're going to get another guest for you, a really important guest who is coming from Israel. So this is important. Just to recap, Iowa has been called for Donald Trump. Those people who were talking about that poll that just came out a few days ago that had 5 points leaning in Harris's direction, well, it didn't turn out that way. North Carolina, with the vote from Charlotte coming in line with 2020, this is almost certainly not enough for Harris to overcome Trump's outperformance elsewhere in the state. Expect North Carolina to be called for Donald Trump shortly after Georgia. Guys, can you tally that up for me? I just want to understand if Yeshiva World is going by those numbers. It's at 211 right now for Donald Trump. How many electoral votes are in North Carolina and Georgia combined? By the way, which app should you download today? The PZ Deals app, obviously. But this is so North Carolina has 16. No, Pesach, you're going to do this math alone. And Georgia. North Carolina is at 16 electoral votes. So let's go by the Fox numbers. So we got 211 plus 16 plus 16. That's the Yeshiva World number. Yeshiva World may have reported before Fox. That's amazing. That's awesome. Good for them. Good for them. You know, really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Nate, for your constant feedback. Live X segment. Should we get another Live X segment? Guys, let's get you guys, can we tune into MSNBC live? Is that possible? I don't even know if that's the MSNBC. I don't even know if we can do that. Like, we might get sued, but supposedly MSNBC is getting unhinged. Like that this country is. Yeah, MSNBC is that's why you tune into this, guys. The poly market, giving you an update on the poly market. Poly market right now is at 91.5% in Trump's favor to Harris's 8.2%. I'll tell you this. If somehow Kamala Harris finds a way to turn this around, that would be amazing. And I'll just echo the things said by multiple guests tonight. And that is, I'd much rather be in the Trump camp than the Harris camp right now. And let me just translate that for you. That is those people who don't want to make a projection saying that things are looking very, very good and very clear for a Donald Trump victory. That's what that is saying. We could play the who knows game. We could play the game of what if. No, why are you guys laughing? Who knows? I mean, who knows? The game of what if. The game of what if. What if Joe Biden was the one who was still running for president and not Kamala Harris? What if they went to an open primary? What if Kamala Harris picked Josh Shapiro as her running mate from Pennsylvania and not Tim Walz? What if? Head to MSNBC's website. They have a live stream. We're pulling it up. I'll put on my in-ears for this. Ooh, now I hear myself again. Wonderful. Guys, welcome. This is, you know what? Those people on Fox News and CNN, they're just talking. I'm telling you, they're not humans. They're robots. They're robots, you know? But we are human here, and that's how it goes. Let's go to a Save a Farm right now. How about that? Guys, this is one of the best ads produced all year. And that is from my friends at Save a farm.
I lied. I lied when I said I'd be okay until the next Shemitah in Tafshin Peitet. I didn't know it then, but I lied. It's been one thing after another. Pandemic, a Shemitah year, and now the war. My fields lay empty, overgrown or dying. The government has its hands full right now. Maybe months or even years for farmers to receive grants. With too much debt accumulating, my only option is to sell. But our farms border our enemies, and they can't wait to be the highest bidder. I will never sell this land. I will never let it fall into enemy hands. This isn't only about the war or my livelihood as a farmer. It's about the safety and the security of all Jews everywhere. It's about protecting our homeland of Israel. So with God's help, my children and your children will have a home when they need it. Now and forever.
Hello, everybody. Well, right now we have the New York Times predicting that 299 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. A total of 299 electoral votes. So that's looking a little bit more like the landslide that some people have been talking about today. We're going to tune in right now to MSNBC just to hear what they're discussing, and then we'll come back right to me, and we'll have a little bit of a conversation.
Macomb is blue right now. This is the blue-collar, Trump-friendly suburban county. There's almost no vote that's been counted there, so yet to be seen how this is going to measure up. But one of the reasons Democrats were able to win Michigan, why Joe Biden was able to win Michigan 4 years ago, was this. He was able to run up a monster number in a gigantic, highly populated suburban county, and it more than offset Trump's strength in the other gigantic blue-collar suburban county. This is a number, if this holds, that the Trump people would be very happy with. The Democrats want that back where it was in 2020. One other county that I think we can look at here and get a bit of a clue from, this is just outside of Lansing, and this is one at the start of the night that the Democrats looked at. They would have said, we want to flip this county tonight. Let me just show you. It got super close in 2020. Joe Biden came less than a point away from winning it here. It had been a 5-point Trump county in 2016. Again, this is one of those places, reason why Joe Biden was able to make the gains in Michigan, a big sort of suburban county, outside Lansing here. Biden nearly won it. And again, this 95% basically means all the vote is now in Eaton County. It's gone back to that 2016 level, 51-46, 49-44. That's what the Trump campaign wants to see in counties like this, where they had slippage in counties they won in 2020. They want to get that slippage back. We saw that earlier. We showed you Lackawanna County in Pennsylvania. They did that. They did this just outside Lansing. Here's another place where they really want to do that. You could see right here next to Oakland, it's Livingston County. Okay, this is a mix of sort of suburbia, some rural areas here too. It's gigantic, kind of between Lansing and Detroit. More than half the vote now counted in Livingston County. And again, just want to show you, this was a bad number for Donald Trump 4 years ago. He won this by a little bit less than 23 points. This was a good number for Donald Trump. He won the state of Michigan in 2016, winning here by about just under 30 points. And his margin tonight is looking more so far like 2016 than it is 2020. This is a pattern that's being repeated. We're showing you, not a lot of counties in Michigan have this much vote in, but in those that are, we're starting to see this. And again, we're seeing this in other areas of the battleground, the northern tier of the battleground. Pennsylvania, We had some more that just came in, almost completely here. It can take you through them. You can start right here, Berks County. Okay, this is where Reading is.
Alrighty, let's bring it back to our stream over here. I want to discuss some potential situations. Okay, so this is from my friend Alex. When North Carolina and Georgia are officially called for Donald Trump, which is what we're expecting, the path to victory will become more clear. Trump would win the election if he wins Pennsylvania and one of Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada. He loses Pennsylvania, and he'll win also if he loses Pennsylvania but wins Michigan and one of Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada. And number 3, if he loses Pennsylvania and Michigan but wins Arizona and Wisconsin. So, like we've said before, the path to victory for Kamala Harris is shrinking by the minute. It's something to, if you're a Democrat, it's not something you're happy about. With all the hype that's been around this election and all the news that they were killing it and it's not even close, that stuff does not do well. It doesn't do well for the get out to vote. It doesn't do well for right now what's happening. It doesn't do well for the media, who's been saying that Harris has this and she's going to be great and he's a fascist and he's the next. Well, he might be your president. And as the media, you may have lost credibility, but not us over here. We have our credibility. Someone wrote in, I feel like a Jets fan now with a lead in the fourth quarter and wondering how we are going to blow it. Too soon. Daily Wire has Trump at 242 electoral votes right now to 108. Yeshiva World has Trump at 395 electoral votes, and Harris hasn't gotten one yet. Jokes. I love you guys over there. Fox News still has 211 to 117. Daily Wire has Trump 242 to 108. So I will go on. That's a great. Okay, we are now going to a guest, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Now bringing to the stream, let me get my official voice on. Bringing to the stream Shabbos Kestenbaum. Shabbos Kestenbaum, a student at Harvard who has taken on the leadership there. Shabbos, I know you just got off the plane. Thank you so much for joining us. Shabbos, do you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you. How's it going?
Amazing. It would be even better if you could turn that phone sideways for me. There you go. Now I'm doing even better. You got that auto lock on, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just toggle that off, and then we got you full screen right how we want it.
Okay.
There we
Should be
go.
better now.
Yes, Shabbos. So thank you so much for joining us. Are you still in the airport, or did you get to your location?
Made it to the convention center. I was blown away by how many people are here. And I will say this, just in the 20, 30 minutes I've been here, the amount of people who stopped me, I mean, I'm obviously wearing my kippah, just saying they're praying for the hostages, they're worried about Jewish students on college campuses, they're standing with Israel, has been pretty remarkable. And I think it really underscores why you have this shift of Jewish Americans like myself who've only voted for the Democrats, who describe themselves as pretty progressive and liberal, but we want to go where we are welcome. We want to go where people like us. We want to go where we can wear our kippahs. And I'm definitely feeling that tonight, as I have been feeling every time I'm with the Trump campaign.
Right, and that's something that you've been doing a little bit. You've been going around with the Trump campaign, speaking at some rallies. Talk about, I guess, Donald J. Trump, being someone that you've spoken to and had many conversations with. Who is he?
Sure. So at the end of the day, Donald Trump is a great politician because he actually shows up for his constituents. I was with Ben Shapiro. I was with Jerry Wartsky, who's an Auschwitz survivor, and I was with the Alexander family, whose son Idan is still being held hostage. And we were at the Ohel, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And Trump, of course, was invited, and he showed up. Kamala Harris was invited too. This was not a political event. This was simply to say prayers for the hostages. She refused to come, and he did. Not only did he show up, but he listened to each and every one of us. He heard our stories. He heard our concerns. This is someone who's deeply impacted and deeply bothered by the rise of anti-Semitism, by the fact that the state of Israel is almost abandoned by the United States. And look, do I agree with all of his policies? No. Do I agree with all of his rhetoric? No. But I think as a Jewish community in the United States, for the first time, we have to be a little selfish. We have to vote in our best interests. And this is someone who showed up for us time and time again. not just him, but the entirety of the campaign. I mean, they have been so vocal from day one that the treatment of Jewish students on college campuses is a national embarrassment. I mean, they are so bothered by the treatment of Jewish Americans. And again, I get why many Jews disagree with his policies, but at the end of the day, he as a person cares about our needs. He is someone who will be an advocate for us. And, you know, I think this will be a pretty short night. I think we'll know the winner pretty soon, actually. It'll, of course, be Donald Trump. But he deserved this win, and she certainly deserves the loss. This is someone who refused to meet with Jewish students. This is someone who is toying with the idea of an arms embargo against Israel, and someone who does not show up for the Jewish community.
Would you say that you were somebody that would always have voted for a guy like Donald J. Trump and been outspoken in his favor, or was that not the case?
I registered to vote as a Democrat the day I turned 18. I've only voted for Democrats. I did not support Trump in 2016 and 2020. I did not support him 4 months ago. In fact, when I spoke at the Republican convention, I deliberately did not endorse him because I felt that what Jewish students were doing, that bringing equity and justice to our college campuses was really important, and I didn't want to isolate, half the country. But at the end of the day, American electoral politics are binary. There's a winner and there's a loser, and we need him to win. Jewish Americans need him to win. If Kamala Harris comes close to the Oval Office, she will abandon Israel because she's already toyed with the idea of abandoning Israel. She will not protect Jewish students because she won't even meet with Jewish students. And Donald Trump is someone who I never thought I would be campaigning for. I never thought I'd be advocating for and rallying with. But to his credit, as I said, he did what a politician is meant to do. He showed up for Jewish voters, and the Jewish community are incredibly appreciative and thankful. And that's why you'll see, as the results trickle in, that he will have gotten a record amount of Jewish voters. I mean, he will get the most amount of Jewish votes of any Republican nominee since Dwight Eisenhower. I'm very, very confident about that.
Would you agree that the things that people will be talking about in history books is the fact that Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz to be her running mate instead of Governor from Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro?
Yes, amazing question. This will go down in history as one of the worst decisions of any presidential campaign, because not only did she pick Tim Walz, who was relatively unknown, who was from a state, Minnesota, where the Democrats don't really need to be competitive at because they have it in the bag.
And the Republicans haven't won Minnesota since like Reagan.
Right, literally since Reagan. This is someone who refused to pick Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a do or die state. Kamala Harris cannot win the presidency without Pennsylvania. And she deliberately chose not to pick him because he was too outwardly Jewish and because he is someone who is too outwardly pro-Israel. So Josh Shapiro had to spend 3 weeks of sort of unjewing himself, of talking about how much he hates Bibi Netanyahu, how much he espouses this very far left talking points. And even then, it wasn't enough. So it was a tactical error. She will lose Pennsylvania tonight, you mark my words, and subsequently she will lose the presidency. And it is a direct result of her caving to the mob, of her trying to placate both sides. She's been doing this the entirety of her campaign, not trying to sound too Jewish, not trying to sound too Muslim. She constantly weaves this balancing act. And that's why both sides just really can't stand her, because she stands for nothing. So it was a tactical mistake to pick Josh Shapiro, a mistake that people will be talking about for years to come.
I'm going to let you go in just a second. I just want to ask you before we go, for Jewish students on campus who, are very pro-Israel and maybe wanted Donald Trump to win this election, if he in fact is the victor over here, should we expect to see a change of what's happening on the campuses around our country?
Absolutely. And you'll see those changes pretty immediately. Donald Trump is the only presidential candidate who has talked about revoking the tax-exempt status of anti-Semitic universities. Donald Trump is the only candidate who has spoken about deporting non-American citizens on student visas who violate American law, which is already American law. Trump is promising to enforce law. Trump is the only one who has spoken about withholding federal funds to anti-Semitic universities like Harvard, like Columbia, like MIT. Trump is the only one who has said he's not going to accredit universities that are anti-Semitic. And furthermore, we'll have an ally in the White House. I did not support Donald Trump for months and months. I wanted to be bipartisan. I met with officials from the Department of Education, from the Department of Justice, from the White House, and we obviously did not have an ally. We had no one advocating for us. And that will be an immediate change in the White House. This is someone who really cares about the issues. And let me just add one thing, and then I'll irrespective of the words coming out of my mouth, regardless of the substance of my speech, the only question I had to the organizers was, are you able to see that I'm wearing a kippah? because I wanted the camera to see in front of to the millions of people watching, to the former president, to the 30,000 people in the arena. The Jews in the 21st century can and should and must be wearing their Jewish pride as loudly, confidently, and publicly as ever before. And that's my closing message to Jewish students. You know, it's good that Trump will win. Trump will be an ally to us, and we will create change. At the same time, you as a student, be a loud, proud, confident Jew. That is the most important thing.
Shabbos, thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you a great rest of your night. And man, would love to see you in that government position sometime soon for the Trump administration. You never know, right?
Amen. Thank you, Naki. I appreciate it. Take care.
All the best. We have now our last guest of the evening. Before we pull her, is she in the waiting room? She is? Yeah? Oh, Meira Kolach, are you with me? Hello, all the way from Eretz Yisrael. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Have you caught up yet? With what's going on?
I've been up for about 15 minutes, but it's looking pretty positive. What are your thoughts?
It's feeling a lot like 2016. What can I say? I mean, it's not over till it's over. Most of our guests that have come on here tonight, very smart people, have said they much rather be him than her right now, because she's in quite a tough position. Her path to victory is very, very narrow.
Right. I mean, we're just waiting from Pennsylvania, from what I understand. And
yeah. We just mentioned on here what his path to victory looks like. And there are scenarios where even if he loses Pennsylvania, if he just takes Michigan and, there are scenarios where he can get that victory, although it is looking like he has a slim lead right now in Pennsylvania. We'll see how those things shake out. I imagine that if he does win Pennsylvania by, 100,000 votes, that it's going to be counted again, depending on what the electoral is.
Right. Well, I mean, I think what's been interesting about this whole thing is that every single prediction has been inaccurate. Every single poll has been inaccurate. Everyone's been afraid. The media has kind of completely misrepresented this entire voting, everything from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And so when we'll see it, we'll believe it. But I'm not so worried at this point. We've just seen a complete defiance of everything that's been predicted. And yeah.
Well, listen, this is the new media. It's people like you that are reporting, and it's just not coming with an agenda necessarily. It's reporting the news as it should be, which is unfiltered and just saying it how it is.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because over the last few days, I've probably received 100 calls of people who are really freaking out. Is it going to be Trump? Is it going to be Harris? Each person believing that if it's Trump, then the world's going to fall apart. If it's Harris, the world's going to fall apart, in different directions. And what I've tried to say to them throughout this whole time is that, we can't pin so much hope and expectations on one candidate. But what I think has really been exposed, at least by tonight, which is much more exciting to me than the Trump win, because I think the Trump presidency comes with a lot of complications as well. Clearly the Harris, specifically for Jews, specifically for Israelis, came with a lot more complications. But the Trump win is not a clear, simple, and easy step ahead. But what is amazing to me, and that's really why I'm excited this morning, is that we're seeing just a shift in the narrative away from these big groups, these big institutions that have manipulated people for so long. And this is kind of really the uprising of the people. The Democrats have had this, have really stolen the voice of the people for a very long time, where the Republicans have been seen in America as, the elite. And this time it's really flipped. People are not listening to just blatant lies anymore. People can see through the media. Independent voices in journalism are becoming, Joe Rogan's endorsement is just, it's an unprecedented thing in history.
It's quite a funny endorsement, though. It's funny how it came before election day.
There's no way that wasn't planned.
Right. Well, he claims it came from him interviewing Elon Musk, and then Elon Musk actually got to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool about Joe Rogan is that if you look at him, everybody would say he's 100% a Trumper. If you look at who and
didn't he vote for Bernie Sanders in 2016? I think he.
Right. So that's what's interesting about somebody like him, is that his whole platform, the reason he's such a successful podcast by about 100 miles, is because he's somebody who actually sits there and really listens to the other perspective. And I think that's something that I think has been a big, big win, not just for America. And I'm looking at like how the international parties are reacting, and everyone is freaking out because they know that Trump really kind of brings back a lot of that old strength, that old kind of,
Yeah.
we're not listening to the lies anymore. Anyway, it's an interesting night.
It
And
goes
I'm
back
sitting
to a time where, I heard Ben Shapiro talking, and he said that he had Donald Trump by a rally of his, and Trump was talking about when he was in office how there was no wars, and he remembers he said that he was talking to Vladimir Putin, and he told President Putin in Russia, he said, "Don't you dare go in, don't you dare go in, we'll blow you up." And Putin said, "No, you're not." And he said, "We might." And Ben Shapiro said Donald Trump's very smart, and Donald Trump went on to say that whether I will or won't is not important. If Vladimir Putin thinks there's a 5% chance the greatest military in the world is going to bomb Russia, he's not going to act. And I think that's what comes as strength.
Right. Well, I say, again, if you look at the difference between you can put it all down to, I mean, let me rephrase. I don't think you can put it all down to Biden versus Trump. I think that it's not that, but I think you can put it down to almost, and this is such a sad statement to make and a scary statement to make, almost the mockery that America has become in the eyes of international players who have realized that this is their time that they can come in because of the division within the country and because of the lack of deterrence that they've been able to create, which Trump was really able to. Like, what people in America don't realize is that the media is only working on Americans. The American media works on American media, on Americans. We don't watch your media. We have our own media. So in each country, you're impacted by what you're seeing. From the outside, the clear division, the clear manipulation, and the clear lying of the media has been very, very scary to watch. And it's been specifically, I mean, from a Jewish and an Israeli perspective, it's been very, very clear what's going on, like America talking about freedom, and yet the people in charge of being unable to stand up against anti-Semitism because they have a bunch of rogue voices on campuses doing what's clearly illegal, and yet America's standing behind that because they're afraid of those voters, doesn't bode well in kind of a Russia threatening term.
Yeah.
But Trump coming in, there's definitely a feeling of this guy doesn't play by that rule book of caring what people think. He doesn't play by the media's rule book. I mean, if you look at the election, the whole election has actually been about Trump. The entire election. It's been everyone that I've spoken to about Kamala, the first thing that they've responded to me with, which again, I think is interesting, is, "Oh, he's not Trump.
Right.
She's not Trump." That's kind of been the reaction to it, versus people who I've spoken to about Trump have been able to name at least some of the policies that they stood by his time in 2016, what they liked about him. Now, again, I don't think that the Democrats don't have a lot of value. In fact, there's a part of me, because I'm aware of how far right the Republican movement can go. There's a part of me that wishes the Democrats had much better leadership, and had they had much better leadership, then they had a real chance. But their leadership has been lying and has been hiding, and you haven't had a president for quite a while, and you have no idea who's actually running. The amount of times I hear "they" when it comes to your government, like,
Yeah,
who's
it's like
they?
Obama. It's a conglomerate, I guess. I don't know. I want to ask you, because we have to wrap up here soon, but I want to ask you before we go that, I heard earlier in the stream over here, obviously Netanyahu fired Gallant today, and that may have come in the anticipation of Donald Trump winning this election. That it may have been something that was sort of coordinated. What are your 120-second thoughts on what's going on over there in Israel?
My 120-second thoughts is that Netanyahu, everything is pre-planned with Netanyahu, and there's always a strategy behind the scenes. I don't know that I would say it's 100% to do with the elections, but it was definitely a last-minute decision of something that he'd been planning for the last few weeks. I mean, if you can look up articles from 8 weeks ago, two months ago, Gallant was always on the way out because he doesn't stand by Netanyahu, and what's clear is that Netanyahu is reaching from a lot of different directions a pivotal point in his career, specifically during this war, and he needed somebody who stood by him, and this guy wasn't it. So I think that had he waited till today to see if it was either Trump or Harris, and it was Harris, then that would have pushed, he wouldn't have been able to do it as easily because there's a lot of support for Gallant from Harris, which tells you a lot about what that means. And I think it's seen as a show of strength right before Trump comes in. So I think it was a win-win. I don't know to say that it's for sure because of the elections, but it was definitely done in a smart time, because I don't know that today would have worked.
Yes. Well, Mira, thank you so much for taking the time to come on, and wishing you a beautiful day. Maybe get some coffee and start your day, and we're going to go to sleep here soon.
Enjoy to hear good news.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mira. So before we wrap up all the way over here, just one quick look on the WhatsApp webs of what's going on. Right now, Fox has 216 to 193. Is there something I don't know? So the Harris party is just silent right now is what we're hearing. What's the source? CNN is reporting that Kamala Harris's headquarters has fallen into complete silence, with crowds of supporters visibly tense, with some seen pacing while others are beginning to lose hope and cry as updates chime in. Well, I want to leave you with this, and this is my final statement for tonight. Download the PZ Deals app. No, that's my second to last statement. My last statement for tonight is, no matter which way this turns, we've heard for the last 2.5, 3 years, 4 years, how Donald Trump was never going to be president in 2016. He'll never be president again. He's a convicted felon. He doesn't belong in office. To right now, the leadership, the path to victory for her is awfully slim. So here's my message. Use your brain out there. Don't trust the stuff media says. I've spoken to a lot of you over the last few weeks, and you said, oh, Harris has this in the bag. It's easy. It's easy. Well, one thing we know for sure by now at 11:15 is that it's not been easy. Nachi Gordon here, wishing you a beautiful night. I want to tell you all, the advertisers that made this possible, hit the link down below over there in the description. Reach out to Bridge Credit Solutions, reach out to RSK, reach out to Hamaspik, reach out to PZ Deals. Signing off, Nachi Gordon here. Have a great night.
Meet David. This is David's phone. David finds out about crazy deals from forwards to his family chat and is always a minute too late. Don't be a minute behind. Sign up to be the first to the craziest airline deals, credit card offers, and online deals. Join PZ Deals today. Download the PZ Deals app and never pay full price again.